This show is a production of the Best in Tabletop Network. Be your best in every aspect of your game. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, or check us out on YouTube for more Bat Reps podcasts and shows. If you like what we're doing, you can join our Discord through the Best in Tabletop Patreon group, or our YouTube members only area where you'll get access to our entire library of content. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to Best in Faction,
the next generation.
Oh, say, can you see?
USA! 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 Woo!
I don't remember any other lyrics other than that, but let's go Team USA.
USA!
Getting those scrubs from other nations just down in the dirt where they belong. Let's go Team USA.
Send them back to the penal colonies, boys. Get out of here.
Oh!
All right. Anyway, I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
And today we are bringing you probably like the most exciting episode that we have ever done. We have got a hell of a tournament to cover today, featuring our boy, the Nicholas, the Olsen, the Johnson himself, talking about some sick Necrons. We are also, as we speak, in the middle of the World Team Championship, also known as the United States Team Championship, because, I mean, the actual WTC was seeing which 8 players got on that team, because we got this, boys. Took down England this morning like they were frickin' breakfast, threw them in the garbage like they're beans on mother-flipping toast. And then the Aussies, very tight tie, still in our favor, though, just gotta say. A dub's a dub in my mind, but we'll take a draw. It's currently sitting at a comfortable lead in first place. USA represent all day, every day, the biggest and the best. Woo! With that all being... Oh, we've got some other special announcements coming up soon. Oh, man, this is... it's going to be a great episode. Anyway, that being said, that's kind of what's going on in my brain right now. How are you all doing? How you doing, Lucas?
Pretty hype. I'm not following the WTC as avidly as all of you guys, but I definitely feed on kind of the infectious excitement. So I was getting hyped for Team USA this morning as I was... 20 minutes ago as I was waking up, just like, yeah, let's go, woo! And yeah, so feeling pretty good about that, and enjoyed myself a tournament last weekend with Nick and the gang up at Aegis in Bellingham, Washington, which was really hype. We're going to be deep diving that over the course of today, but yeah, just kind of surviving my busy work season and trying to find time for 40k games, but I'm almost at the light at the end of the tunnel, and then right after that it's time for Total War and Warhammer all day, baby.
Hell yeah. How you doing, Naj?
Really well. I had an absolute blast last weekend at our tournament. I've got 2 more 40k tournaments coming up in the next month, maybe another one at the end of this month. I haven't decided yet, so the future looks bright for my 40k experience. Just finished my summer job, so I get a nice 2-week vacation before I go back to, working at Yale school or whatnot. But yeah, it's pretty fun. So yeah, looking forward to enjoying summer and, tinkering with some more Nephilim stuff.
Very nice, very nice. Personally, I'm doing super high, if you couldn't tell, because... we the best. But also I finally got a rep in last night. First rep in a frickin' month into one of our buddies, Matt, playing Emperor's Children. So it was like, I have 3 fights lasts, and he has like 3 fights lasts and also 11 fights firsts. And it was crazy janky combat, everything I wanted out of a game of 40k. Tons of fun. Very excited to talk more about bugs. Probably next week, but maybe we'll find a little bit of time for him today. So that was super cool. Very proud of our brothers, others in red, white, and blue across the pond, absolutely tearing it up at Belgium. If you're listening WTC, and this is our only request, for frick's sake, please stream this stuff. Man, I want to watch. So annoyed. But, did you guys see Brad Chester lost 12-8 to Eric Lathuris playing Mono GSC into his craft world?
Awesome. It's pretty cool.
I need to watch that.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
I'm very intrigued in like I saw like a Harlequins versus Mark's Necrons lost 13-7. So I'm very interested. I mean, it's because I'm like, that's one that I know is a issue. So I'm excited to see. I'm also very interested in teams now. I don't know if but yeah. So I recently got invited to go play on Aegis Games Las Vegas team tournament team. And I accepted. It's my first team tournament I've ever been into. So, now I'm like actually watching WTC with interest because I'm like, how does this format work and why do these lists do so well here? So
nice. Very cool. Well, we are going to get right into our main event this week, which is a GT. I think this is another asterisk GT technically on the pile of them for our event, which is the Aegis Open. This was run by our boy Noah Bedome, and was JT also running this one? JT and Lee? I don't know who's TOing this.
It was Mitch and Peter.
Oh, Mitch and Peter were doing the TOing just at the shop run by JT and the Steegers.
JT was running the shop.
Noah and the Steegers. Anyway,
he was playing in the tournament.
Yeah. Whatever the case, it was up in Bellingham, Washington. If you're watching us live, you may want to go back and check out the edited version later on, because right now we're going to cut to a quick interview with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Noah Bedome, to talk about just what that store means to him and some of the exciting things they've got going on over there. So, take it away, Noah. Alrighty, and welcome to the show. Our very special guest today, we've got none other than Noah Bedome. How you doing today, Noah?
I'm doing good. Tired, but good.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to bring Noah onto the show here because he is the new proud owner of a very exciting game store up in Washington that this event actually took place at, and we wanted to get you a little bit of the down low, bit of the scoop on what's going on up in Bellingham, Washington. So Noah, tell us about your shop.
Yeah. So there used to be a shop in Bellingham, Washington called the Dark Tower. There was a whole big thing, which I'm not going to get into, but it was not a good situation. But it did result in a silver lining, which was myself and my partners able to purchase the store. We did, and now we're back open, and it's open and running, and we're doing well again, which is awesome. For me, it's a big deal because anyone who knows me, community is the biggest part, right? It's giving back to the people around us. It's the friendships we make. It's the new people getting into the game that we help influence. It's the crazy cheer around the game table when something wild that shouldn't happen happens. And those are the best things about all these crazy nerdy games that we play. And the store was a central component for a big part of the Bellingham community. Specifically, there's a lot of people who aren't within walking distance of anywhere else. Bellingham being a college town, and also having some low-income areas, that's actually pretty debilitating for people to not be able to get to and go share in that community space. So saving that space was super important to me and my partners, Lee, JT, Dan, and Steven. We were able to do it, which is great. And so now we're just got our fingers crossed as the money comes back in the door and we're getting built back up, that it continues to kind of match the voiced community support actually comes through with action. But so far it's been great. We had an event that maxed out. We had some last minute drops, which always happens. And then we've had people in playing games. We're getting ready for an event schedule again. Things are going very well.
That's awesome. And Noah, this community is such a, like you said, it's such a big part of this for everyone. How did you end up becoming a part of this community? Could we get a little bit of your, how did you get into 40K in the first place, such that you'd end up all the way at running your own shop as a pillar of this community, really?
Right. I'm a pillar. You give me so much responsibility just there, man. So I've been playing nerd games since I was very little. I learned to play Magic, playing on concrete with no sleeves back in the day with Beta, right? And I think my first time seeing Warhammer models was me being very, very poor as a younger kid and looking and seeing wow, I would love those, and seeing the price tag, realized I'm never playing that game. When I got out of the military, me, my brother, my cousin bought some starter kits and got into play, and we played for a while in 5th edition. And they fell out and I fell out. And then fast forward to 2018, I think, I needed something to do. And I found this old kit of models my brother had that had been run over by a car. And so I rebuilt a Nurgle army out of this broken Chaos Space Marines army, sculpting green stuff and all that to make it. And that was just a cool hobby project. No intent of playing. Then I did the same thing with his old Space Wolf army. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to paint a new model. Then me and my kid painted a Castellan. Then I'm a competitive person. So I was like, well, I wonder if there's still a competitive scene. I went into Dark Tower and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a game. And the person there was like, oh, yeah, I can play a game. Do you want to play competitive or do you want to play just like a starter game? And me thinking that I'm like I always want to play comp. That's what's fun for me. I was like, oh, let's play competitive. I didn't even know what stratagems were. I just got trashed. It was old school unnerfed Yanari. And I just got tabled in a turn and a half. And I walk out and I'm like, what did I do? So I go back, flip through all my codex, read every strat, make all my little cheat sheet cards. I come in and I play an RTT. And my one loss at that RTT, my first RTT, was against John Kuhatsu, who's a well-known in our community, super nice guy. And from there, I just kept playing with the group. I got asked to join the Dark Tower team at the time. And I went to LVO that year, went 4-1-1. That was pretty awesome. And I think at that point, I was like the level of like support they got from community, the friendship, and also just how fun games of 40K are. I was pretty much stuck. And I'm one of those people who I like the hobby part, the painting part, as much as I like the gameplay. So it's something that keeps me locked in, even when I'm like on meetings painting or I can't get out and play a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you've certainly come quite a long way from getting tabled in a turn and a half. It seems like you've been having quite a season. You want to tell us a little bit about what you've been up to last couple months?
Yeah, I've had a pretty good season. Last season was okay. Obviously, it was a little weird because of COVID. I've had a good season. So I've had a couple podium finishes at some major events. I had a top 8 recently at LSO. I had an event that I performed really well at, and then turned out I had an illegal list because I should have been in 2 patrols. Yeah, it was a bummer, but it was still pretty good. I've been primarily, when I go to events, I'm targeting best overalls and Renaissance mans, and I've been picking up a bunch of those. That's been super fun. And I've been able to do a bunch of coaching with my team, which has also been, that's like the funnest part, right? Seeing the other people get better. And then we had an event at our store recently, and my only loss was against this Yahoo, Mr. Nicholas Olsen Johnson.
Very nice. And what are you playing these days?
Right now I'm playing Knights. I have 16 painted armies, so what I'm playing really depends on how severe my ADHD is at the time. So, and also what's competitive and good. I have a hard time playing something that's not good, but I also can't play anything that's not painted well. So I have this weird thing where I'm like personally signing myself up for way too much time. But right now it's Knights. I'm playing Tyrannus Knights, 2 big Knights, 7 little ones, with the Errant kitted out to drop 1 million mortal wounds. So I think we might have missed it, but our store is Aegis Games. We're up in Bellingham, Washington. We do Magic, Warhammer, all of the other skirmish games in between, Kill Teams, Warma Hordes, Legion, all those things. And we also have a TCG shop if you want to support us remotely and buy some singles.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, I know that I'll be up there at your next event, hopefully. Looking forward to supporting the shop. Everyone check it out. Aegis Games up in Bellingham. Awesome. All right. We'll see you in a sec, Noah. And we're back. Awesome. Thanks for those insights. So, as far as the actual tournament is concerned, we're talking 5 rounds over 2 days with what, like 20-something players? 26?
There were originally 32. I think after drops, there were 26.
26. Very cool. And we're playing in this GT. I was not able to make it up quite that far north. I'll be back in the Pac Northwest in just a couple of weeks, but not at this time. This is the Aegis Open, and we got ourselves a tournament recap featuring both Nicholas Olsen Johnson and our boy Lucas Troller. Of course, you can check out Best Coast Pairings to see all the gritty specifics of the event and see who all was in attendance. Check out BCP. They may not be the best, but they're the only option. All right.
Should we do like a quick review of the venue?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's get it. Oh, man, it's been so long since we've done one of these. Yeah. Top down, boys. How was the tournament?
I'll go first. I thought I've never been to this store. So up in Bellingham, Washington, pretty cool place. It's kind of like right in the middle of downtown. So there's like nice food within walking distance, which is great. Store itself, cozy place. They got like board games and like miniatures, lined up all on the walls. In the back, they got all like JT and Lee's, badass painted miniatures and display shelves, which are super cool to see. The tables themselves, like, despite being like a smaller store, I felt like I had enough room to move around the tables pretty well, which was good. And something I really liked too that they had these like shelves below, so you could set your armies up on them, and they also had like cup holders as well, so you could put like drinks in there and stuff. Yeah, I didn't really have an issue with like putting my stuff on the floor or anything weird like that. There was also like a big section off to the side of each table too, where like you could put like dice and stuff during the game as well. So small space, but like they made it work. And so
were there chairs at every table?
I don't think so. I think some had stools next to them.
Just something to sit on.
There was a stool at pretty much every table I was at.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. What do you think of the store, Lucas? I know you've been there before, but
yeah, I echo that sentiment. I mean, given the relatively small space they have available to try to, cram 15 tables in there, I think they did a really good job. One out of every like maybe 4 or 5 games, you'll be like, well, my DZ is unfortunately kind of between 2 other tables, and like, okay, this is a little awkward. That'll happen every once in a while. But every other game, it's like, yeah, I got plenty of room. I got a nice like, shelf where I can put my army down here, so I don't have to bend down to the floor every 2 seconds. I got somewhere to put my drink. I got somewhere to put my food. There's plenty of space on the side for us to like keep our dice and other game aids and the stuff like that. Love the tournament. I think, yeah, it is like in downtown Bellingham. Tons of cool places to eat. We went to a Euro place twice, and that was lit. So yeah, just a great tournament on all accounts. A bit of a bummer that we had enough drops so that I don't know. I think it's technically a big RTT now, which is a little bit sad. But we'll keep calling it a GT because that's the right thing to do.
I think
this is the second time now there's been
Yes.
a Bellingham tournament that's just barely missed the GT cutoff. Isn't that right?
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
this just like adds to the meme that the three of us continue to technically but not technically win GTs and win things that are technically but not technically GTs, which I find hilarious as a meme.
Yep.
But anyway, that doesn't detract from anything. Let's jump right into it. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So starting up, we got our boy Lucas playing his beloved GOOOOOO.
What?
What's going on, brother?
We playing Evil Sons, baby. So here's the genesis for this list, right? I wasn't having a lot of success with Goffs, and of course karma immediately came back to hit me after I was shit talking everyone for not playing Mega Knobs and Gaskell and stuff, and I immediately go on like a 15 game losing streak. That's not exactly what happened, but I went like 5 wins, 12 losses over the course of the last month, and I was like, okay, this isn't working. So I decided I was kind of having a bit of crisis where I was thinking like, orcs aren't very good. We just got a buff with the WOG, but I'm performing worse. Like either everyone else's armies got better around me and just Goffs aren't cutting it anymore, or I need to like learn something new to add to my playstyle, like book repertoire of plays I can make. There's only so much you can do with moving 5 inches a turn and absolutely punching someone in the face. Maybe there's some more to this game than that. So I decided give the orcs one last shot. If they do decently, then maybe I can incorporate some new items into my Goffs list that'll give it a little bit more of an edge in more matchups, and maybe hopefully win some more games. And if not, then I'll just ditch orcs for now and play some Chaos Knights. So this was kind of like the last hurrah tournament of orcs. Is there enough good juice in the tank to keep playing orcs for the next couple months, or am I going to be pivoting to Chaos Knights? So I decided to play Evil Sons. I wanted to see how they would do. They have a lot of cool tools. The only thing they don't have is hitting hard. Compared to Goffs, they kind of wet noodle people, but they get there much more reliably. The +1 to move and +1 to advance means that you can go for greedier charges. Part of what makes Goff so crappy is they have a very defined threat range and it's pretty short. With Evil Sons, you can kind of like, I'm just going to roll this unit's advance, and if it rolls a 6, it's going to go 18 inches toward you, and it's going to launch a 6-inch charge. For Goffs, that's like, well, I got to roll that 6, and now I have to make like an 8-inch charge, and that's kind of sad. Evil Sons can go for a lot greedier charges, so they can make the threat overload play a lot more scary on the go turn, just because you cram everything into your opponent's face. So that's kind of the gist of Evil Sons. They also have a Fight Last relic, which is on my kill rig, which I'll talk about in a second. It's a good relic. It allows you to have better control of the fight phase and also dogpile big units. Beast Snagas don't hit hard as individual units, but when they dogpile one thing that's fight lasted, then you can do things like 2 CP plus 1 to wound on all 3 of those units. That's big stonks if they're not interrupting. And just tons of other cool plays you can do with the fight last as well. Especially because it's on either a beast boss or a kill rig, which is a gigantic base, and it's a pulse at the beginning of the fight phase. So you can make like multiple units fight last. It's really powerful. Okay, so this is an Evil Sons battalion. We got a war boss with Brutal but Cunning to kill a claw. The idea is that this guy is a good substitute for the Goff the Goff biker boss, because he has about as many attacks. Doesn't have exploding 6s, but he gets the 2 from the squig. I asked in advance of the event, and the ruling was a little bit unclear. So the morning of, I went back there and asked the judges, and they said that the squig generates squig attacks, not the squig generates claw attacks, which was not my understanding. So that was a little unfortunate. But if the squig generates claw attacks, which is definitely rules as written and the way most people rule it, then he hits about as hard as the Goff biker boss while being pretty fast as well, because he's coming out of a transport. We got a Weird Boy with Fists of Gork and Warpath. He's there to juice up the War Boss. That War Boss getting up to like strength 15, strength 16 if you supercast Fists. Super big, and he's got like 9 attacks. So that's a lot of damage. And then Warpath, obviously, just to bridge that gap of you don't quite have enough damage with non-Goffs. I feel like a Weird Boy is necessary to juice up smaller units / characters when you're not playing Goffs. And that's why I brought him. We got 2 squads of 10 Snagas, 3 squads of 10 Grots. Grots are great now. Forget the good bits. I would definitely keep them. Snagas, we'll talk about their exploits over the course of the next 5 games, but a little bit disappointed in them. 7 Mega Knobs, 1 big squad of 7 standing near the War Boss with Hit Him Harder approaches Goff's damage, so I wanted that in there as well. 2 squads of 10 Commandos with the Claw and the Ram. During their tournament, I was a little disappointed in the Ram, but 1 out of every 4 or 5 games, it just kills like 2 or 3 Space Marines randomly, and that's, if it doesn't do anything for 3 games and then all of a sudden gets 60 points back, I mean, it's a 5-point investment. That seems totally worth it to me. So the Rams are staying in. 10 big chopper trucker knobs in a truck. They were, we'll talk about them later. But they were there. They were really fast. We got 5 tank busters. They were amazing. 3 squads of 4 piggies with bombs, a smasher squig for doing wounds to Abaddon. We got a wagon with a Defrola, a kill rig with redder paint. So he's going ultra fast. Let's count. You guys ready to count the movement modifiers? So he moves 12, right? +2 from red paint, +2 from squig high tires, which I didn't list, and +1 from Evil Sun. So he's base movement 17. And then he advances. And when he advances, he gets +1 from Evil Suns and +1 from the squig high tire. So he's basically base movement 19. And then he adds a d6 to that. So on average, he's going 22.5 inches. And then he can charge.
Wait, how is he on average? Oh my, what?
And then he can, for 2 CP, charge on 3d6. And remember, everyone at the beginning of the fight phase in engage range of him fights last.
Zoom.
I'm so red, boys.
That is the orkiest shit I've ever heard.
Yep, he's goofy. And then, he has the Frazzle, which is the AoE Mortals power, and then Spirit of Gore, Squiggly Curse. So, like, roll die for a number of models, 4-ups Immortal. He was okay. And then we got a truck to carry the trucker knobs. So that's the Evil Suns list. The idea is that there's a big wave of stuff that hits you turn 1. That's kill rig, truck knobs, 20 commandos, and maybe some pigs with good advance rolls. And then on turn 2, the second wave of stuff crashes into you, and then hopefully I've done enough to keep you down on points. Cool list. It was a lot of fun. And eager to talk about my games in a minute.
One question that kind of jumps out at me. I see that you brought bomb squigs on the pigs, but that's the only place I think I'm seeing them there. Yeah. Why no interest in putting them on Mandos or Tank Busters? I
realized I was, based on my previous list with squigs, bomb squigs and commando squads, I think the understanding is I was playing it incorrectly back then. The idea is that you have to be eligible to shoot in order to throw Bomb Squig. So it's still a little bit unclear whether or not commandos can throw Bomb Squig after advancing if they don't have any assault weapons. Like, is any unit eligible to be picked? Or is any unit eligible to be picked and then you can only shoot assault weapons? Or do you have to have assault weapons in order to be eligible? I still don't know that, and I just wanted to be sure about things, so I put them on the pigs because they have assault weapons.
Gotcha. But like taking them on if you wanted to, you could take them on the commandos in like a Scorcher or something, right? Isn't there an assault weapon available to them?
You can take a Burna, but at that point it's 10 points instead of 5 because you have to buy the Burna, and the Burna is kind of poo-poo.
Gotcha.
Okay. Or you could, you can throw it having the commandos not advanced. Sometimes they just walk around. Sure. Sometimes they're stuck in combat. They have pistols, so you can throw it if they're stuck in combat. That's pretty lit.
Not bad, not bad. And then the other question, could you walk us through a quick, obviously it can change game to game, but generally who's starting in the boats?
The general transport complement here is 10 snaggers in the kill rig, so that reduces my footprint by 32 millimeters. We got the wagons transport capacity 20, so 7 mega knobs, 5 tank boosters, and the war boss go in there. Because the 7 megas are 14, the tank boosters makes that 19, the war boss makes it 20. So that saves some real estate as well. And then in the trucker knobs go in there. So generally the idea is once the trucker knobs launch, 10 snaggers that are deployed on the line will advance forward and hop in that truck to transport swap. And then those guys getting out 3 and then walking 6 in the following turn means they're pretty fast. I did also forget one thing on this list that I just remembered is the Weird Boy has a warlord trait faster than use to pick a unit in the command phase and give them advance and charge. So that helps me really make sure that those turn 2 and 3 charges after I wah are successful.
Makes sense to me. Good stuff. This list looks awesome. I'm very excited about it. The only other thing I would ask, I know that Gaz is a dynastic agent or whatnot, so he was an option. Why? What about him doesn't cut it for the Evil Sons?
There's 3 reasons to bring Gaskell. The first is that he's a melee beatstick. The second is that he buffs the hell out of Goffs. And the third is that he is, there's cool tricks and shenanigans you can pull because he's a wound cap model. So let's go in inverse order, right? Shenanigans because of wound cap models. Everyone now is either concerned about Abaddon and Catan or should be. And it turns out if you can deal with Abaddon and Catan, you can deal with Gaskell. So most people can just deal with Gaskell.
You think that if I can deal with Abaddon who can't be targeted, I can deal with Gaz who can? What?
Most people can just deal with Gaskell by bringing the normal ass list. So bit sad there. So that's not really a reason to run him in Evil Sons. He buffs the hell out of Goffs. Well, this is an Evil Sons list, so that's not a reason either. So you're only bringing him because he's a melee beatstick. And that for 300 points just is not... He whiffs into too many targets for him to be worth 300 points. He's good at like punching a knight without an invuln. There's enough stuff in my list that can do that. The Mega Knobs can do that. The War Boss can do that. Why would I pay 300 points to do something much cheaper could do? That's the reason why Gaz isn't in the list.
Very cool. Anything you want to ask, Nick, before we move on over to the Crons?
No, I mean, Lucas and I had been over this list quite a bit together. It kind of was like a last minute, late night, you got this glint in his eye, and he's like, "What if I played not Goffs?" I'm like, "Uh-oh." So we've been through the reasoning on a few things together. I was interested in hearing what you had a question about this list.
For sure. Okay. Last thing I want to ask then before we move on: what is the general big picture secondary plan? You mentioned get the good bits, but that's one. You need 3. What's going on?
Yeah, get the good bits is insane. Obviously mission dependent, but I picked it on most missions that did decently on it. Green Tide is okay. Grots have the orc keyword, so if they can make it behind a building in a quadrant because they don't take up a lot of space, they're not high priority to kill. Green Tide can be like 2 to 3 points a turn. And then hope your opponent gives up a kill secondary.
What do you think about this?
I never took the biggest and the best. I don't. That war boss dies in 2 seconds.
We talked about the biggest and the best with a beast boss.
I think you have to specifically take tanky war bosses who are untargetable, who aren't going to be in the thick of the fighting. So if I were to redesign this Evil Sons list, or just incorporate something else to make my secondary plan better, I'd probably like take out the trucker knobs and throw in another detachment where I can bring in a beast boss who's -1 to wound and has the fight last relic. That way I get to apply the fights last over multiple fight phases, and that guy's like impossible to kill. So he's really likely to just run onto a midfield objective, you know, help take down a baby knight or kill 5 dudes or kill some screening unit or something like that. And now it's like, okay, now I got 4 points from that. He's lookout Surd. He's kind of low priority to kill because he's not super high damage. That's the kind of character you want for the biggest and the best. Something that's like really hard to kill and not worth your opponent's time to kill it. The War Boss is not hard to kill, and he's the highest priority in the list because he's the highest damage thing other than maybe the Mega Knobs. So the biggest and the best was not built into this list, and I never took it at the tournament.
And to be clear for those following along at home, that's a beast boss on Squigosaur, right? That you would consider?
Yeah, a beast boss on foot is not a thing in my mind.
Gotcha. All right. Let's head on in then to what I think a lot of people are tuning in for. Let's hear about the Necron's Triarch Extermination Force.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I talked about my list a few times. I don't know if we've talked about it in depth on this list, but this is the list I decided to bring to the tournament. I played it in RTT the week prior, which was some good practice. I remember my old list was a Patrol Outrider, and I tested a version with Outrider Vanguard. So I brought that to the tournament after testing at the RTT if I liked it. So quickly go over the list. If you got any questions, let me know. So it's, you know, the good old combo of Relentless Expansionist, Eternal Conquerors, pre-game of 6, Army-wide Obsec. Don't ever leave home without it. Got Zarek, the Silent King, as the Army's Warlord and a Supreme Command. I did pay the 1 CP for his Warlord trait. Still on the fence whether I like it or not. In some matchups, incredibly useful. In other matchups, completely useless.
Can you tell us what that Warlord trait is?
Yeah, the Triarch's Will. So the Warlord trait isn't... Well, yeah. It basically lets you take a command protocol and assign it to 2 battle rounds instead of 1. The reason why it's useful in some matchups, there's certain like melee matchups, like usually in a power armor, especially like CSM, you know, Marines of some kind, sometimes Sisters, where I'd like my all-game protocol to be Sudden Storm for the +1 inch move, and I'd like to have +1 strength on the first round of combat on turns 2 and 3, like the turns that I expect a lot of the fighting to happen. I don't want to like, maybe it's a little greedy in my mind, but I kind of see it as paying a CP to, you know, give army-wide +1 strength on like the 2 most important turns instead of just 1 turn. Now I could make my army-wide protocol +1 strength first round of combat, but then I lose that extra inch of movement. And I find that extra inch of movement is sometimes, you know, just more movement is good, right? It's incredibly useful. Maybe it's a crutch. Maybe the more I play, I like cut it. But so far it's been useful. So that is what that Warlord trait does. I got the Chronomancer. He's got the funny lance because I just have like 10 points lying around. I got the Technomancer. Those are the support characters. You know, one's got the 5-up invul in the command phase, and one's an apothecary in the command phase. 3 squads of 3 Tomb Blades with no upgrades, so they're just like dirt cheap action monkeys. 3 squads of solo Locust Heavies. Those are like my kind of anti-transport / anti-knight / anti-dumb monster tech. 3 squads of 6 Scorpex. 3 solo Plasmacytes to run around with those Scorpex. And then a Transcendent Catan with Transdimensional Thunderbolt and Time's Arrow, and the Void Dragon with his unique power Voltaic Storm and Sky of Falling Stars. Yeah, that's the list. It starts with 2 CP. Don't have any relics.
Could you talk to us a little bit more about some, you know, Necrons are in a spot right now where, you know, they're a fairly dominant faction. People are seeing them all over the place, and the lists are sort of starting to coalesce around this sort of idea. What in this list are we not seeing in everyone else's list quite as much? 2 things jump into my mind, but I'm curious what you think.
A few things. There's no Scarabs. There's no Command Barge. I feel like I see those a lot in a lot of lists still. There's also no Wraiths. Those are like the 3 things I see in a lot of other people's lists that aren't in mine. I guess Locust Destroy. I wouldn't say those are kind of now popping back up again. But I wouldn't say those are as common.
Yeah, I think of those as your sort of signature tech. You really love those solo Locust Heavies. And I've seen you use them to great effect in the past before. What is your thought process on how to utilize them in game, big picture? If someone's looking at them and thinking that looks like a little bit of dead weight,
the solo Locust Heavies. Yeah, I mean, so our meta, at least in my mind, is famous for people just showing up with like dumb big monsters sometimes, and I don't want to like lose a game because like Mortarion comes running at me out of nowhere, or like 3, keepers just run me down or something like that. So the Locust heavies are there to just kind of keep people honest. I also thought that like Knights would be a big issue for this list, which is why I have the Void Dragon over like, say, the Nightbringer or the Deceiver. Those are the other 2 named Catan. The Void Dragon's signature is he just kicks ass into vehicles. So the solo Locusts are there to like stand behind a wall and shoot Knights. They can't be obscured, or walk out and pop a transport. I know we've talked about in the past that if you are a mostly melee army and you can't crack transports from range, you sometimes just lose the game. So the 3 Locust heavies and the King shooting are usually enough to like crack some like dumb Rhino or Wagon running around. I also like them, like, you're like, why I'd like run them in solo squads instead of a squad of 3. Yeah, I like running them in solo squads because like this list kind of has an issue with activations and also models. Like as you start, like if you kill all my Tomb Blades and like kill a squad of Scorpex, it's kind of like just some dudes running around, and those dudes need to go kill stuff every turn. So then I run out of stuff to like go sit on objectives or like go and do like ancient machineries or something. So when the Locusts have done their job, they can just kind of like go waddle over and do an objective, and they're still obsec. So they can still do ancient machineries, complete at end of turn. They can still steal objectives from opponents if there's no obsec on there. They go run in and like soak Overwatch. Like it's just a solo guy running around still at the end of the day. So that's why I like it a lot. Also, sometimes I find, I've heard that this is like a dumb like fallacy to fall into, which is like, oh, waste your opponent's shots. I don't like it if someone like points like, a good shooting brick at a Locust heavy and it kills all 3. It's kind of nice to be like, okay, this thing can only see that one, so I'll kill that one. Like they can kind of scatter a little bit more. They can be in multiple places. They don't have to like all be bundled up together. So yeah,
makes sense to me. So that's definitely the first one. The second one, I would love to see you go in a little bit more depth about our boy, the Void Dragon. I do not see him cropping up very often. I honestly see all 3 named Catan, and obviously lots of Transcendence popping up these days. But Voidy does not seem to be quite as popular as the others. Talk to me about what he's doing in particular that makes him that much better than the big bad Deceiver or the Trixier. The Trixier Deceiver, the big bad Nightbringer, or the cheaper Transcendent. Why the Void Dragon?
Yeah. I guess I should go into like, so why I like him a lot more than the others. I thought this also would struggle in the Chaos Knights and Knights in particular. They're armies that can like, they can move around the table and cut angles and just rip apart my backline. Since I'm not running any Wraiths, my Scorpex don't have like Invul, so I don't really have tanky obsec stuff. They're all like 3 up armor. They get cover, but they're gonna get gunned down by Knights. And also like a lot of the big Knights have like flat 3 damage stuff, which just picks up Scorpex. So my army can't just like sit out in the open and score points. Usually into those like matchups, it just goes out in the open. Whatever stands in the open for a turn is vaporized. The Catan actually get to live out in the open. And rather than the Transcendent, who just kind of sits there and like pillow fists Knights, the Void Dragon runs into their castle and threatens to kill like a Helver in every turn, which is great. Because he just soaks up a ton of resources. The Knight player like actually has to respect him. He's not just basing them and doing nothing. He's basing them and killing them. So what he does into vehicles that's so good, he has his special power. It's a 18-inch targeted smite. On a 2-up, it's a super smite to vehicles. And even if you don't kill it, it counts its wounds as half for brackets. So you could even just like shoot it at a big Knight and be like, yeah, you're mid bracket now, unless you like fight on full, which can like, make them use their CP. His spear is a D6 damage spear with 5 attacks, but into vehicles, it's D3 plus 3. And he also has a shooting attack that's D3 plus 3 into vehicles. So he's just got like 6 Dark Lances to turn into a vehicle and a super smite. Also, whenever he kills a vehicle, he heals on a 2-up at the end of the phase. So that can like push him back into his bracket. He heals a turn. He heals one every turn innately just for being a Necron. Yeah, I pretty much have this guy and to just walk up to Knight armies and be like, hey, I'm going to like solo this flank unless you do something about this. And usually that soaks up enough resources that the rest of my army is able to move up the board unopposed. So that's why I'm running him over the other 2.
Very cool. Alrighty. Well, let's get right into it then. We got a whole lot of games to cover. We're already half an hour in. So, jumping into round 1, we are playing... Are we just going to play in order this event?
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not playing to the pack. We're just starting on Recover the Relics. Okay.
Yes.
We're starting on good old-fashioned Mission 11, Recover the Relics. This is a mission notorious for being bad for people without forward deployers or pregame movers. Fortunately, Lucas has commandos and Nick has Necrons, so that shouldn't be an issue. Plan Hammer and Anvil 6 objectives taken hold. Not necessarily everyone's favorite mission, but it's one that we've all seen a couple times. It's been around for quite a while. And starting off, we are playing Nick's Necrons are going to go into Chaos Knights. Lucas, you're definitely the resident Chaos Knight expert here. Walk us through this list and what you think of it.
I don't know if I'm the expert, but I certainly probably know the most about Chaos
I don't
Knights.
know what the words mean, and Nick is the one playing against him. Lucas, read the list.
True. So Nick is playing against Dark Forging. That's Infernal. And they have like +1 damage sniper stubbers.
They're also like strength 6.
So like that's cool, I guess. He's got a Knight Desecrator for reroll once to hit for shooting. He's Obsec, the Tyrant's Banner. Don't remember what that does, and Pyrothrone. So he's a Psyker.
I know what Tyrant's Banner does.
Okay,
It's a +3-inch range on auras, and to the start of your turn on a 5-up, you gain a CP.
Okay. And then he's got 2 Executioners, with one of them has Advance and Shoot. 2 Executioners, and one of them, that's the one where once you get Exalted, you have a 4-up Invuln. This guy likes Zinch upgrades. And then he's got 3 Carnivores. One of them has reroll charges. And then 3 Stalkers. One of them has like -1 to cast aura. So yeah, pretty cool. It looks like a shooting Chaos Knights list with some unusual upgrades.
And just for the uninitiated, the Executioners, is that autocannons?
72
So
inch
2
range.
by 4 guys with autocannons, 3 guys with chain cannons and claws, and then 3 guys with claws and swords?
Yep.
And the big guy, Desecrator, is that the...
He's laser cannon and either sword or fist.
he's the chaplain, right? He's the one that buffs the other guys, the little dogs?
They all get a buff from the middle tier Chaos Knights. The Desecrator's buff is a 9-inch aura reroll once to hit in the shooting phase.
That's what I was looking
And
for.
it's a 12-inch aura because of the Tyrant's Banner.
Spicy.
Pyrothrone also makes him a caster, so he has a spell that gives himself a 5-up Feel No Pain, and on a
Cute.
8 to cast, it's a 6-inch aura, 9-inch aura of 6 of Feel No Pain, which is then
Spicy.
further buffed by the Tyrant's Banner. So this guy basically sits back and he's like, "I'm a captain and apothecary." It's pretty goofy.
All right, so walk us through this game, Nick. What's going down?
I'm not going to go super in depth about the Necron secondaries. We've been over them a lot already on the show. So I took Bring It Down because he's Knights. I took Purge the Vermin, which is keep my table half clear. And I took Ancient Machineries, which is go scan objectives in the middle of the board. Guaranteed 8 because my side of the board, I've got 2 outside. I just need to get over to his side of the board once, and that's an easy 12. Basically, I deployed my whole army so he couldn't see it. He went first, realized he couldn't see anything. He's like, dang. I go and just advance the Catan up the board. Something I realized in the Knights is just like the Catan powers, like turn 1 aren't that like really useful. So just advance them to get extra movement. So the Void Dragon goes a whopping 13, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I'm coming to your castle next turn." The Scorpix move up to take their places behind some buildings. And I think I Ancient Machinery some objective on his side of the board. He responds. He knows the Void Dragon's a big threat. This guy's like, "I've played Necrons before." He's like, "I haven't played new Necrons. I haven't played them since Nephilim, but like I know the Void Dragon's terrifying." So he has this pretty smart play where he tries to shoot the Void Dragon. He does 3 wounds to it. Okay, goes to 6. He charges it, right? And his plan is to charge it, do 3, and then auto explode and hope to roll a 3. And even if he doesn't, at least he's like got the Void Dragon like pretty low. And I'm like, that's pretty smart. There's nothing I can do about that. Doesn't do any damage in the fight phase. Bummer. Void Dragon's still at 6. At this point, he's like, I'm not going to waste my auto explode on this. So Void Dragon just punks a Carnivore for free, goes back up to 8 because he heals and then heals at the start of my turn. And now he's got 3 inches of free movement and he's making charges into this guy's castle turn 2. So turn 2, the Void Dragon just walks up and like just solos some Executioners. I've been hammering the Big Knight from behind Obscuring with my Locust Heavies and the King. The Big Knight, I think I get to 6 and I kill like some more Little Knights. At this point, I have Scorpex moving up the field and making charges into his lines as well. The King has also moved up into the center of the field. He's behind like an Obscuring Ruin, so he's blocked like from one half of the guy's board, and the other half that can see him is currently in combat with the Void Dragon, so they can't shoot him. He could spend 2 CP to fall back and shoot, but then he's fall back and shooting the King, and I don't think one autocannon thing into the King is that much of an issue. He does. I think I end up killing the big knight turn 2. He does end up charging and trying to kill the void dragon again on turn 3, and I think he gets him to 3, and then I like make my saves in melee. I'm still at 3. I think at this point, I think he was out of CP to auto explode. So the Void Dragon just heals up and makes it into this guy's home objective on turn 3. At this point, I think the Void Dragon's killed like 3 or 4 Little Knights, proceeds to just keep killing more. Scorpex are now swarming the lines. The king has come out to play. He's just standing out in the open. He does not care anymore. There's nothing that can threaten him. And I think by turn 4, everything's dead. I've lost Tomb Blades and maybe some just random guys here and there. Void Dragon's back to full health by the end of the game, just standing on his home objective. And yeah, that's pretty much the story of how the Void Dragon soloed the guy's army. So game 1, immediately did the thing I wanted him to do. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. And yeah, nice 100 to 48. He got a pretty decent score on No Prisoners. I think he took No Prisoners, Ruthless Tyranny, and Storm of Darkness. Also pretty decent score on Primary. Something about this mission that's pretty hard to stop is people getting 8s. I was really focused on one side of the board, so he kind of like got to keep his other side pretty well. I just had a Transcendent Catan fighting a Carnivore over there for a while. Just keeping it locked in combat, but he's OBSEC and I'm not over there. So yeah. Immediately open. My army does the thing it wants to do. Pretty good.
Very cool. So you were talking a lot in the middle there about how it seemed to me at least like one of the big moves that you were pulling off here was this combo of I can hold down one flank and I can hide the king from the other flank, right? It's really hard to hide the king in midfield because he's such a big model from every direction. So instead going for this combo where you can hide it in some way and then distract in some other way. We haven't talked about it yet, but this event was player plays terrain, yes?
Yes.
Gotcha. Was this the sort of thing you were thinking about, trying to put big stuff in the middle to allow him to do? Talk to me a little bit about the terrain methodology for this list.
Yeah, terrain methodology for this list. Something you really want to do is this list isn't that fast. It's decently quick, but you want to be as close to the middle of the board as possible, so you can kind of like build this like castle behind a wall, and then you can lance out towards objectives as needed. And eventually there's going to be a turn in the game where you just like take everything and go and put it out there. Like when your opponent's immediate threats are kind of dealt with or tied up, then you go and put everything out there. So my player place terrain is like, usually it's different on 5 objective missions. It's very easy. I'm usually trying to just put a giant ruin like in the middle of the table if I get the first drop, and then kind of build like base behind that with like other obscuring pieces blocking off firing lanes into my castle because I don't want, big long range guns just shooting Scorpex and killing the king for free. On this mission, it's usually putting like some sort of ruin on the front objectives to keep you safe. I think we only had 2 pieces of big obscuring ruins though. So I made one flank completely safe, and then I made my home base completely safe, and then I put like a piece of industrial on the other one. And I'm just like, I'm gonna go put a Catan over there. And now we got a Catan who's -1 to hit sitting on that objective that he's probably not going to get to. He'd also used his first terrain drop. He got the first terrain drop, and he put a big ruin in front of the objective over there. So I'm like, oh, he's got to walk around that ruin to go get the Catan. So like, we're good. I also put like some crates there, so the Catan is short enough to hide behind the crates. So he's not obscured, but he has to like actually go around the crates to shoot him. So the last thing is, I did have like a kind of weird wonky piece of obscuring that I did just slam down in the middle because I'm like, maybe I'll be able to like hide behind this from one side, that sort of thing. And it ended up working out well, where the king was able to hide on this side from that side, and then Void Dragon and Scorpex are messing up this side, so they can't afford to put shots into the king.
Nice. All right. So while this is going on, we've got Lucas playing in a couple tables down, and Lucas is going into World Eater Chaos Space Marines. Heck yeah, man. I have seen so many different legions running around right now. World Eaters, not so much. So I'm excited to see how this goes down. We got our boy. I'll read this list, even though I don't really know what it means. We got a Demon Prince with wings with a bunch of crap on him that I assume makes him an absolute beat stick in melee. We got ourselves a Disco Lord, a bunch of Berserkers, an 8 and 2 5s, 2 Mauler Fiends. Haven't seen those in a hot minute. A Helldrake. By a drill, I assume you mean the Termite?
Yep.
And then the Fatty Daddy, the Corn Lord of Skulls himself. Tell me about this game, Lucas.
Sure. I did have one final comment. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I did want to make one final comment about Nick's first game. I'm fairly certain that the auto explode after doing melee damage with a baby knight play doesn't work because that damage happens in the fight phase as well.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why.
So yeah, that would there are two things you can do. As a quick side tangent, because I don't like Catan and I do like knights. There are two ways to go for Hail Mary plays to try to kill Catan when you're playing knights, especially the Void Dragon because he's awful. If you're Imperial Knights, you can, when you charge them, you can spend a CP to, if it's a big knight, to do mortals on the charge. That can be helpful. It's unreliable because it's only on a 6, but you can do it. And then as Chaos Knights, you can spend a CP for Terror Shades to try to roll above his leadership. Use leadership 10, so it's unlikely, but every mortal matters into Catan. So, yeah, the auto explode play unfortunately does not work. So don't try to do that in game.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, now that you realize, I don't know why I thought it was.
I was confused why you were. I was like, what?
He was going to survive, and then next turn when he died to Catan powers, he was going to auto explode.
True.
Don't think too hard about it.
Maybe he was just like, I'm going to
that's
damage on. Yeah, I don't know. He was just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm like, yeah, for sure, man. Go ahead. Yeah, I don't know.
That doesn't work.
All right, so Lucas, World Leaders, Crumpin' time.
Yeah, so this wasn't my closest game, so I'll just spend like a minute or two on it. Pretty cool game. Jake and I, funny story with Jake and I actually, we were called the morning of by Colin to pick up our boy Jake because we were staying with Colin in Mount Vernon. And so he's like, yo, pick up Jake. He's also in Mount Vernon, headed to the tournament together. And I was like, okay. So we grabbed this guy. He was a pretty cool dude on the way up. And we were chatting about the armies we were playing. And then all of a sudden, round 1 rolls around, and I'm playing against my boy Jake, playing as World Eaters. So this was a pretty interesting game. We both kind of understood the dynamics of the matchup. No one wants to get hit by the other person first, because both of our armies do a pretty substantial amount of damage. Starting around turn 1, he played very cagey, which was smart. And turn 2, he started pushing toward me, which was definitely uncalled for. And he misunderstood my threat range pretty dramatically. And on that turn, I swamped him. I don't remember all the things I killed, but it was a lot of stuff. And basically flooded his, because we're playing Retrieval Mission, the 2 objectives that are close to his DZ, but in no man's land, just flooded those with guys, put tons of OBSEC on it, killed all his OBSEC berserkers, and then from there it was just me getting points while I slowly ground his army down. My kill rig did the thing I wanted it to. It ran in, it fight lasted the Lord of Skulls, and I said, well, I mean, your Lord of Skulls can be -1 damage, but let's see if we can survive the kill rig plus the beast boss plus 10 commandos plus 7 mega knobs. And that's the power of Evil Sons, is when they want to go into one big target. Goffs might be scared because of an interrupt. The Evil Sons are not scared by an interrupt because of the funny fight last. So we just dogpiled that guy and gravity hammered him, which was super fun. And then from there, just slowly ground down the rest of his army. Without the Demon Prince gives so little stuff in his army as core that by the time turn 3 rolls around, even though he has exploding 6s, I'd killed most of his stuff. And he was just hitting on 3s with no rerolls. So he wasn't even hitting me all that much. And he was just running out of gas really fast. So the game was pretty much over by then. But the plan worked. Got 15 on good bits. This is one of the broken missions for good bits. Got a 13 on Green Tide. That felt pretty good. And then Big Game Hunter, he has a ton of vehicles. So did pretty well on that as well.
Very nice. Final score 97.58. Seems like a classic Crumpin'. Let's go ahead and keep moving. So, round 2, we've got a 97 for our boy Lucas. We've got a hundo for our boy Nick. Got a wide open field, tons of possible opponents, doing random pairings. Who knows what's going to come up. And playing Tide of Conviction. Very exciting mission. One of my personal favorites in the Nephilim packet. And Team Kill Inbound. Team Kill Inbound. We got Lucas versus Nick. And it had to happen in round 2. It was going to happen eventually. Unfortunately, had to happen pretty early on.
I see orcs, and I'm like, damn, I'm really scared of 3 battle wagons and 15 mega knobs and gas. And then I see a kill rig in the list. I'm like, ooh, don't know how this one's gonna go.
And as we all know, kill rigs are trolling.
Yeah. All right. So Lucas and I had played a practice game the week prior leading up to this. I think we were like, all right, let's finally do this. Let's see who wins. and we played Conversion. Were you testing Evil Sunset? No, you're still playing Goffs, right?
Yeah, I was playing like the Goff Horde thing.
Yeah, it was like a Goff list with like 2 trucker knobs. It was kind of like a halfway between where his old Goff list and his current Evil Suns list is. And after that, he's like, okay, I think if I was faster, maybe I could beat you. / I just want to play Evil Suns and try something new. So Tight Conviction, this one's kind of scary because I think it's a mission where Lucas is favored. Because that far objective there on the right is pretty outside of my castle. And like I said, this army likes to castle up. So I'm kind of sticking around those two, which means, and it's a hold 2, hold 3 mission, which means if Lucas can pressure that side objective, he's putting me on 4 every turn. And as we've heard, one of the ways to beat Necrons is to pressure their primary score early. What was it? So I basically built a wall, like a screen wall with like trash units in the way, like Tomb Blades and Locus, because I know if he gets to kill the Scorpex of the King for free, it's basically game over. I took no prisoners because I knew he's going to be running at me and he gives up like a 16 on it. I took Purge of the Vermin because, hey, kill shit on my side of the table. I took Assassinate because I was like, his characters are going to come at me and I'm going to probably kill them. I was thinking Code of Combat, but like something I found in our practice game is we're like, maybe Lucas could have tried to kill the King. And so I was worried that if I took Code, he'd just dogpile the King and kill him. That was a mistake. Turns out he can't dogpile the King and kill him, and Code of Combat's the correct choice 100% of the time. So this one, I did something kind of goofy with command protocols. I made Eternal Guardian my all game, so I had Overwatch on 5s out in the open whenever I wanted. Not the right call. I was thinking about it for like turn 1, but something I did do turn 1 that I liked was Vengeful Stars, so ignore cover within half range. So my Tomb Blades got to go first, walk up to the commandos within 9 of them and go, hey dudes, you don't have any more cover, and just kill all the commandos.
Oops.
Yeah. From that point on, I mean, I'll let Lucas take it away. That was like my opening play was like kill commandos, progress my screen forward, shoot some shots at a kill rig. It made like 1 too many 6-up invulns and lived on 4. And I'm like, bummer, but I think I've done enough damage. Let's see what happens. What was your response? Like, what was your idea after that, Lucas? Going through your head, what you had to do? / like secondary game plan.
Well, secondary game plan. I mean, you took Assassinate, Purge, and no prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
I give up like 170 no prisoners wounds, so that's going to be a 15. I have to use my characters to kill you, so that's going to be a 13. And Purge is bullshit, so that's going to be a 15. I have Assassinate and the good bits, and you drop some stars on my Gretchen and killed like 5 on turn 1, and I think another like 10 or 15 ran away or some stupid shit like that.
Yep.
So that wasn't sustainable. And then no prisoners, which you only give up like an 8 on.
87, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm screwed. I just like decide, I don't know what there's nothing more interesting about this game than that secondary rundown. I mean, yeah. Nick didn't even take majority Necrons. He took 1 Necron secondary, and it was the really ridiculous one. And he just still has so much of an advantage that the only hope I have is to run at him like a maniac and hope that the dice go well for me and poorly for him.
I was gonna say, have you considered tabling a bitch?
Yeah, I did. I made a good effort. Yep. I killed most of his screens turn 1, whiffed on a couple units. So there was like 1 Locust and then like 1 squad of 2 Tomb Blades left that I was not anticipating being alive. But then from there, I committed enough stuff that he couldn't have just like backed up and shot it all dead with the King and used Catan to punch. Like he needed to use actual units to kill, like Trucker Knobs, Kill Rig, 4 Pigs. Like I put enough in his face that he actually had to deal with it. So he started committing Scorpex, and that's what I wanted. I want to like wipe out his units as fast as possible. So I throw that wave of stuff forward. He puts forward 2 squads of Scorpex. I go in and I say, well, I have to kill like a Catan and 2 squads of Scorpex this turn. And I basically do. I kill 2 squads of Scorpex. I killed the Void Dragon. But I mean, I haven't even thought about the King. And this whole time he's just like zapping my vehicles and like bashing my units. And then on turn 3, he just like walks over and gun downs 5 pigs and bashes 4 Mega Knobs with melee. And then
this is why Code was the right call. I think it was 4, maybe turn 3. Turn 3. My far objective, the one that I was worried about, Lucas had dogpiled with like 6 pigs and like 10 beast snaggers. So my Scorpex there just die. Pretty close, actually. I definitely should have -1 to wounded there after that. I realized that. But he dogpiled that. And I'm like, okay, I got a lot of stuff over there to deal with. How do I kill it? And I think I threw like some like my little shooting over there, like Locust Heavy, Chronomancer Lance. And then I'm like, well, it's just the king left. And the king picks up all 3 squads. And I'm like, okay, cool. That flank's dealt with. And then he walks over and kills all the Mega Knobs. And yeah, absolutely crazy. Just the amount of firepower he can like dish out. So I think, I think you did like the correct thing, which was like hit my stuff hard, try to pressure my primary. But yeah, ultimately, it's just like the threat of like what I'm gonna score, makes you come to me, which is what I want you to do.
Necrons are good at bursting down like select targets, and now with Catan and their little bit of plank shooting as well, they're good at like splashing some damage into the backfield. And that's not what Orcs like. They want you to either, devote a bunch of real resources, which I'll talk about later on round 4, to killing the shitty little backfield units, and then you don't have time, and then you run out of bullets to kill the stuff that's right in your face, or you kill the stuff that's in your face, and then maybe I have a shot on points because I've got stuff in the backfield. When I get my units obliterated by Necrons, and then also lose like 15 Grots and support characters and stuff like that to Catan, that's a non-starter.
Yeah. I think if you don't have bomb squigs and or smash a squig, the Catan are a humongous problem for orcs. So
yes,
orc players definitely need to be running out of phase mortals these days.
Yeah, we have a terrible time dealing with out of phase units. But we have some good tools to deal with them. Bomb squigs and smash squigs are cheap. So you should be running
ramming
at least
speed,
a couple of each.
Yeah, so
very cool. All right. Well, sounds unfortunately a bit one-sided, but such is the matchup at the moment. Moving on into round 3, Nick feeling pretty good 2-0, and we're playing conversion, so another 5 objective sweep and clear. And Nick runs into Imperial Knights again, this time piloted by friend of the podcast. Runs into Knights again, this time Imperials, run by a good friend of the podcast and excellent, well-rounded player on the Pacific Northwest, Hank Adams, fielding Imperial Knights. Lucas, you want to take us through these Imperial scum?
Sure. So he is House Tyrannus, so he's a 6-up Feel No Pain. They are Questioner Mechanicus, so they have an extra wound and heal a wound every turn, and have access to all the good strats because they don't know how to make Imperialis good, and they keep making dumb, boring shooting knights the best. Good job, GW. So House Tyrannus, the Oaths are Defend the Realm, so get tons of CP, get OBSEC for free, hooray. And then lay low the Tyrants, which is rerolls on Knights. Hooray. Not the most inventive combo, but it is the optimal
Lucas, tell me how much you love Imperial Knights.
They're so dumb.
Let me tell you how much I love Imperial Knights.
He's got 3 Helverns. One of them has the Bastard's Helm. This is a really good relic. It counts as a bondsman ability, and you give it to another knight. It gives the origin of the Bastard's Helm and the recipient of the Bastard's Helm +1 to wound on all of their weapons. And because it's a bondsman ability, the guy who's receiving it gets -1 damage. Although I'm pretty sure the guy who gives it does not.
You can never get
relic.
It
Means you can never receive the effect of a bondsman ability. So that's a cool little combo. We got 3 Knight Moirax with double Graviton Pulsars. These are 2d6 shots. They might be blast at 6 -3/2, and they're flat 3 into 3-up armor save or better. So they're pretty good at just laying waste to elite Armor of Contempt dudes.
They are indeed blast, and they are heavy.
Yep. We got a Knight Crusader with the ability to do the free stratagem. He's got Blessed by the Sacristan, so this is the traditional casino Crusader. He's got Endless Fury for extra shots. The one interesting thing that Hank has done with this guy, I don't know if this is the norm, but it's very powerful, is when you take I forget which one of his 18 upgrades gives him access to a successor trait, but you take the successor trait unremitting, which means that you double the number of wounds in target units for the purposes of blast. So it's really easy to get your blast guns like minimum shots or maximum shots. So like if you're shooting at a 6-man unit with your battle cannon, 12 shots. That's pretty good. And then we've also got a Knight Paladin. He's a Princeps that gives him the ability to give the Crusader reroll once to hit and wound, and then Knight Seneschal, so he's not too bad in combat.
Sanctuary, which is the 4-up invuln against shooting, right?
In Sanctuary's 4-up invuln in combat.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
It's a 4-up? I thought it was a 5-up in combat.
It's a 4-up as far as I understand.
Are you sure you had that?
Take it away, Nick.
Very confused by. Okay. It's important to note too, the Paladin, since he's got the Princeps, he's the guy that tells the Crusader to get the Bondsman, which means he can. That allows him to use the stratagem for free. That's what Master Tactician is, right? You have to be under a Bondsman ability or something to use it for free or something like that. Okay. Yeah. Just verifying that. Lucas gave me a thumbs up. Okay. Yeah. So this is Conversion. This is one of the matchups I'm most scared of. Hank and I had played a practice game a few weeks prior, and he shot the hell out of me going first, and I won the game on a coin flip because Hank did not remember how fast the Silent King moved, basically. So this time Hank was much more careful, and he's like, I know I need to be certain, far away from the Silent King. I did win the Defender terrain roll-off, which was very important, because then I was able to take a fat L and slam it in the middle of the table. I also won the first turn roll-off, which was very important, because I then realized that his Warlord Knight, I forget which one it was, I'm assuming the Paladin, was within Scorpec range, and I just pre-game moved the Scorpecs up 6 inches, and slammed all the buffs on them, and ran them right up and one-shot the Knight, which means on Conversion, you don't get any more CP now because your Warlord is dead, and he'd already spent his 2 starting CP on a rotate turn 1 when my Locust Heavies and the King shot at one of his Knights from behind a wall. So
dude had 0 CP from turn 2 onward?
No, he's top of 1, he has no CP.
Bruh.
From turn, half onwards.
Oh my
The
God.
other silly thing, Tyler, is the Paladin is the Princeps, so he gives the Crusader the Bondsman ability, and you can only use the free 3 CP, like Tons of Mortal stratagem if you're under the effect of a Bondsman. So he has no access to that. Like, he can't use it for free, and he won't be using 3 CP on it.
So the game is over, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we both looked at each other, and he's like, well, that was outside of Silent King range. I didn't expect the Scorpex to make that 7-inch charge and or one-shot the guy.
Seems like a very worthwhile risk to me.
Yeah. So at this point, he's like, we'll play a little bit and see what happens. And I'm like, for sure. The Void Dragon is also advancing towards his lines. The Void Dragon makes his lines turns too. I think he kind of whiffs, but it's like he has no CP to do mortals in the charge phase. So the Void Dragon's just going to dance around in the backfield the rest of the game. And I think by turn 3, Hank's seeing where it's going as the Void Dragons just keeps charging and punching and slapping things. And now my army can kind of move up uncontested because I think I end up picking up the other Knight, the Crusader, with some shooting and charging, and like Catan. Hank's just kind of like, all right, that's a game. It's a game. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those big things where I saw the opportunity. I'm like, oh, these Scorpex can go for a 7-inch charge re-rolling. Let's go, because that's what you got to do in the Knights, and it worked out.
Wow.
I mean, secondaries that I took didn't really matter because the game was over turn 1, but had the game gone on longer, I took Bring It Down because, kill Knights. I took Purge the Vermin because keep stuff away from my side of the board. I took Treasures of the Aeons because if we go back to the Conversion map real quick, Conversion, really easy here. It's 3 objectives outside of either player's DZ, so it's just hold those 3 in the line at the end of your turn. If you hold 1 for 3, 1 for 2, 2 for 3, 3 for all 5. So it's just flood the board for the first 3 turns and get 15 points. Easy peasy.
Such a stupid secondary.
Yeah. Also no mercy, no respite, by the way. The kill category. So yeah. He took Honor, which this is talking about dumb secondaries. I know my secondaries are dumb, but Honor is also dumb. That's just play the game, basically. Go get 15. Yield No Ground, which is kind of a worse Purge, and Renew the Oaths, which he was not able to do because I held the board.
Wait, reverse Purge, as in Purge being reverse engage.
So no. Yield
engage? What?
Yield is worse Purge. It's
worse Purge, not reverse Purge. Gotcha.
It's keep things outside of your DZ, don't fall back, and hold 3 objectives. So it's take over the board and get stuff out of your side.
Sounds good. Cool. Is there a reason that he wanted that knight to be so far up forward that he's getting charged turn 1? I know obviously on conversion you can only be so far back, but was there some, like, if he went first, is there some real menacing action that guy could have pulled off into you?
I think he was maybe doing it to like cut an angle or something. I'm not quite sure. Sense. He also has 5 drops and I have like 17, so he has no idea where my score packs are. So he's kind of has to guess and put that guy down. I think he thought that he needed to like deal a killing blow turn 1, so he's like, I'm gonna deploy my stuff aggressively. So like when I go first, I'll like try to cut angles and like shoot stuff to death. Because despite the fact that I have a big fat L, that fat L is really only protecting like the king and like I think like a squad of Scorpex. He could definitely cut angles and shoot like another squad of Scorpex. So if he gets to kill a squad for free turn 1 and put some damage on the Catan, that's pretty good.
Gotcha. Makes sense. All right. Cool. Well, that's Nick with the killing blow, finishing day 1 3-0, and against some pretty steep competition as well. Hank is no slouch. Mm-hmm. And we'll move right along then to Lucas, who, man, we're just going to play into Knights all day, every day, apparently. Lucas playing into Chaos Knights. Lucas, could you walk us through your own opponent's list, please?
Sure. This is actually a pretty cool list and something that I took some inspiration from in designing some recent Chaos Knights lists of mine. But it was just...
Who is this, by the way?
This is Michael Timpe.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, this is my first game against Timpe. It was a really good game. Unfortunately, was not very close on the scoreboard. But I'll kind of briefly talk about why. Cool list, House Herpetrax. So it's Iconoclast, which that's the Chad subfaction. Let's go. No dumb, cowardly shooting stuff. We all about punching out here. We got a Desecrator. That's, again, the shooting knight with Warp Haunted Hull. So he's got a 5 up against mortals in the psychic phase and a deny. Knight Dabalist, so +1 attack, roll 1s to hit. And then the Veil, so that's basically 4 bin one against shooting. Blessing of the Dark Master. This is the upgrade you want to put on your big knight. You don't want to make him a psyker. That's dumb. I mean, it's cool, but it's not probably not optimal. Give this man's no rerolls, and no one will ever want to shoot at him. It's amazing. So yeah, he's got the Chad Desecrator. He's got 3, 3, and 2 Stalkers. Stalkers are Chain Gun Fist, but on a couple of them, he swapped the Chain Gun for the Meltalance, so it's like Meltalance Sword. He had some weird Stalker loadouts all over the place. One of the Stalkers has Beguiling Majesty. This is a sick upgrade. I was massively sleeping on this. It makes the Stalker himself -1 to hit and wound in melee. And then once he's killed 5 wounds worth of models in shooting or melee, he gives off a 6-inch aura of -1 attack.
Ooh,
you want to know how
spicy.
much that is on him?
20?
20. That's like so lit.
That's a very reasonable price. And like, I'm not mad about that. I'm like, yeah, take that. That's great.
It's so strong. Just like, oh, you put a little trading unit on a flank. I killed it. And now you'll never contest this flank ever again. Because anything you send over here is going to be like -1 to hit and wound, -1 attack. So, love Beguiling Majesty. That's a sick upgrade. Mm-hmm. We got 3 Stalkers, with one of them's a Psyker, and another one has the Helm of Doggies. We got 2 Stalkers with the Aura of Corruption. That's -1 strength, and once you get the pact, -1 toughness. And then 2 Executioners. One of them has the Zinch Give Back CP upgrade. So really cool list. It's House Herpetrax, so it's good in combat. It's tanky with the extra wounds, and it's still good at shooting because Desecrator plus Stalkers is just hellacial amounts of fire regardless.
Can you remind us what Herpetrax means?
Baby Knights have 2 extra wounds. Big Knights have 4 extra wounds.
It's a lot of meat.
Yeah. This list, for reference, gets 24 wounds out of that upgrade.
Whew.
Yeah.
Can I have an extra? Can I trade my chapter tactic for an extra, functionally an extra Hive Tyrant and a half, please?
It's like pretty good.
2 Hive Tyrants? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, continue.
So yeah, cool list. Playing on conversion, if we want to back up to the map. So I'm red, right? And Timpe is blue. And remember that my guys can't hide because they're big and they're thick with way too many C's. And Timpe is on the blue side, and he lines his guys up on the line and goes first and just walks 12 inches to the left and down, and he can see everything that's in my DZ. And he opens his shooting phase by killing my battle wagon with 2 shots from the Desecrator. Or sorry, not my battle wagon, my kill rig. So yeah, I mean, this game was not even close. He opened the game by just killing the kill rig, 8 pigs, 10 boys, 20 grots. And I was like, and then in response, started clawing away at some knights. And by the end of the game, I'd killed 3 or 4, but he was just like laying waste to me. So not that close of a game. Unfortunately, Chaos Knights also have better secondaries than me, and better kill power somehow, because that's cool. And so he was out killing me and out pointing me. So I was just trying to take down as many models as I could for the honor of it on the way out, but definitely not a close game, but a fun one nonetheless, and cool to see the other faction that I'm interested in right now kick some ass.
Very cool. I'm kind of scrambling to try to find it, but I can't because it's not. They've changed things. But did y'all do this using the new rules for player place terrain with the diagonals and stuff?
Officially, we were not supposed to, but basically everyone did, because that is the most common sense fix ever, and it improves the quality of life in games dramatically. So we did.
Awesome. Yeah, so for those of y'all who are not aware, FLG did make a change to how player place terrain works somewhat recently. I think he did it for, was it the Lone Star Open was the most recent big event they ran?
Yep.
We're now on sweep and clear style maps, so Conversion and Death and Zeal, and then also on Data Scry Salvage. We split the table corner to corner now, just like all the way down the diagonal. And then for our 2 corner to middle maps, so that's Bomber Mission. What's Bomber Mission actually called?
Tear down
their icons. Yeah, tear down their icons, and do they still call it Prios? We still call it Prios.
Secure precious artifacts or something.
Yeah, whatever it is. So on those funky diagonals, it's also a diagonal that is right down the middle that is parallel to both of the deployment zone lines. So the table is much more reasonable split, frankly, and prevents some of the weird shenanigan-y situations where, like on Data Scry Salvage, you were deciding what terrain goes in your opponent's DZ at certain points. Yep. So that's all been addressed, and we'll be using that moving forward. Great move, FLG. Very pleased to see that adjustment. Cool. So good stuff. Lucas is not having quite the day the Evil Sons were hoping for. How are you feeling after day 1? Sitting down at 1 and 2.
Terrible. Next question. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say.
I mean, like, are you thinking, oh, this Evil Sons thing was a mistake? Are you thinking, oh, I just haven't figured it out quite yet? You know, you've made it. Are you making adjustments going into day 2? You know, how do you cope with not having a great day 1 if you're not going to drop like other people, and you're going to continue strong into day 2?
I mean, I definitely was learning cool things about the army and figuring out cool plays. Evil Sons can do a lot more of that than Goths. But the unfortunate reality was I didn't think, while I learned things from my losses, I also learned that there was basically no chance of me winning any of those games. And that's just the sad reality of being green right now, is other people just have stronger everything than you, basically, on all accounts. So you have to hope for dice to go on your side, or you get good matchups. And anyone who's like A tier or above is favored into you, and that's the unfortunate reality. It's not even in terms of like killing power. They have a killing power advantage, but you have a scoring advantage. It's that they have a scoring advantage and a killing advantage, and you have to overcome both. And that's where it feels really bullshit. Especially for armies like Knights and Necrons, where they just kill you in 3 turns, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I got a 95 while you were over there getting your 5 good bits points. So yeah, not feeling great. Learning cool things about the army and how to play into these various opponents, but not much chance I could win any of them.
Did you feel like your Goffs list would have given you a better chance, or something similar, or something worse even?
Into Tempe for sure. He ooga booged straight at me. The Goffs list, I feel like, could have seriously killed like 2 or 3 more Armigers than my Evil Sun list did. And that would have resulted in, him being really strapped for what to kill. As it was, he still had like, after he went first and killed 800 points, I killed like 3 Armigers. And he was like, all right, cool. And then killed me. As for the game against Nick, I actually feel like Evil Sons were a little better. Just being able to get to the units that I want to, the soft underbelly of the Necron army, He wants you to hit the Catan and the one squad of Scorpex with the 5-up emblem, but if you can get right behind him and snipe out the squishier Scorpex squads, kill all the screens really fast, you have a shot in hell. So I feel like Evil Suns are a little better there.
Yeah, the pigs
Alrighty.
with the advance and charge every turn are very good.
Yep.
Nice. So, and Nick, I assume you're riding high, feeling great at the end of a 3-0 day one.
Yeah, I mean, like the game into Lucas, I was like, this guy could legitimately beat me because like we play a lot, we know each other's play styles. And the game into Hank, I was like terrified. I'm like, all right, here's the coin flip, and then did it. I also know who I'm playing tomorrow because at this end of this day, there's only 2 3-0s because a lot of people tied, which kind of messed all the brackets up. So I know who my opponent is, and I'm like, okay. I played him a week ago. I beat him. It was close. He's made adjustments since then. Time to see if I can do it again.
All right, so we walk in to day 2. We're playing the Scouring, the most appropriate mission for this particular matchup, if I do say so myself. And that matchup is going into our boy Steve Trimble, rocking the Death Guard. Lucas, walk us through this absolute monstrosity of a Death Guard list and tell us why Death Guard aren't as terrible as Art of War is trying to convince you they are.
Yeah, let me walk through the list and then we can touch on that last bit about how everyone else ranks Death Guard right now. We got Abaddon as the Warlord. Obviously, you take him. And then Plaguecaster. I don't know what all those things are. We've got another Plaguecaster. These guys just walk forward, cast Warp Ritual, do a couple mortals, blah. We got 6 squads of 10 Stinkers, aka Plague Marines, with all the free things. That's 2 Flails, 2 Blight Launchers, 2 Cleavers, 2 Melt-A-Guns, a Mace, and a Sergeant. And then we got a Biology Professor. He gives them 6 to Windy Immortals. He's pretty cool. And we got a Blight Spawn with Stench Fats and Viscous Death. Viscous Death gives him reroll the number of shots on his Goofy Flamer and also makes it Strength 8. So yeah, screw that guy. And because he is the Ferryman, this is a plague company you don't see very much, but they're really good at making the Foul Blight Spawn really irritating. Because normally he has a 3-inch range, pick 1 unit to fight last, 6-inch range, you don't count as charging, all units. You can bump that 6-inch range no charging aura up to 12 with the Ferryman strat for 1 CP, just to make an aura plus 6-inch range in the command phase. So that guy just trolls around all game with a 12-inch range of you don't count as charging, and that messes with some people. Not only because it is a pseudo fight last, but also because there are a lot of abilities in the game right now that key off of charging. For example, Repentia. We all know that they deal a ton of damage, but when you think about all the things they get from charging, +1 AP, +1 attack, reroll hits, like 60% of their damage goes away if they don't count as charging, even if they get to fight before the Plague Marines start charging. So this guy is a serious pain in the ass for like the vast majority of melee armies. Yep. We got a Tallyman to give some CP, and we have a spawn, lovingly dubbed Spawnathan. Nick, did you have a picture of Spawnathan?
Oh, I don't. I'll try to get one up here before.
If you can, send me a photo of him and we'll get it in here. While you're doing that, Nick, I do want to mention this list is a bit contentious. There's an interesting ruling being used here. The list does revolve around getting the Revolting Stench Fats, which is a relic on the Foul Blight Spawn, and there is some question about whether or not you can do that with Abaddon as your Warlord. The TO at this event ruled that in Nephilim, with the way that the give out your quote-unquote free relic stratagem, the BRB one, is worded, that you can do that even if your Warlord doesn't line up quite right, to give them the free relic in the first place if they were free. So it was allowed here. If you want to run this list, which I highly recommend, this list is awesome. It slaps. And it's a good way to learn this particular playstyle of Steve Trimble, which I believe we've spoken about on the show before. Check with your TO if that's cool. And if your TO is not cool with it, take out Abaddon, put in Mortarion, and the list does basically the same thing. You have to cut some stuff, figure it out. I don't know.
And
I'm not
a... That's it.
Yeah, good job. So that's the situation there. So, quick recap though. Steve Trimble here is known for his style of the Ungaist of Unga Bungas. He is known for deploying on the line and going and getting great results out of that. He did officially win our Best in Tabletop Open, as according to BCP, as we didn't get to play at the event. Very competent player, someone to very much be afraid of if you're going to be in the Pac Northwest. And this list, it's a spicy one, especially on the scouring. So, Nick, what are you thinking about this on the way in?
So Steve and I played a week prior. We played on the Sunday prior at our Warhammer deck RTT on Tide of Conviction, which is a much worse mission for him because Death Guard don't want to spread out. He also, I think, had 10 less Plague Marines. He had 50 Plague Marines and 4 Death Shroud, which was way less scary. So he swapped out the Death Shroud for 10 more Plague Marines. Oh, sorry. One of the Plague Marines has the Skull of Goth or whatever, which is annoying because that's mortals in the movement phase. So that's really bad for Catan. I know that this list, he can really easily deal with at least one Catan because he has mortals in the movement phase. He has multiple mortals in the psychic phase. He, punches and shoots pretty well. So the first Catan that goes in there is just getting ripped apart. And so I got to use that knowledge accordingly. I also know that the Foul Blight spawn is only 4 wounds. So times arrow is a coin flip to remove that guy from the game. So Steve also knew this. The last game I played, I ran both Catan and tried to coin flip on my go turn and failed and still managed to pull it out. So I'm like, okay, if I fail this time, I think I can still do it. He was much smarter. He deployed a lot of buildings to hide his Foul Blight spawn behind, and I couldn't really go get angles on it to shoot the times arrow at him. So I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to have to walk into the no charge aura and just make the best of it. So what I need to do then is the king needs to multi-charge multiple Plague Marine units so he can make them fight last. So when my Scorpex don't count as having charged, it doesn't matter because they're fight normal and the Plague Marines are fight last. So I still get to go first. So I go first. I ended up taking Purge of the Vermin, Assassinate No Prisoners, because I know that Steve is coming right at me. He gives up a 14 on No Prisoners. He gives up a 18 or 20 on Assassinate or something crazy. And I know I'm going to have to wade through his army to come out on top, especially on the Scouring with how close we are together. I debated taking... Treasures is bad on this mission because it's select 3 objectives outside of either player's DZ and your opponent does it. So Steve would pick the 2 on his side and the 1 in the middle. Ancient Machineries is okay. I thought about that one over Assassinate. But I'm if he goes first and he gets some good advance rolls on those Plague Marine squads, he's just going to swarm the middle objective, and I'm never machining that until I table him. So I just went for the table plan, and we'll see what happens. Steve went for Spread the Sickness, which is the Death Guard poop on objectives and get a bunch of points. He took Warp Ritual, which made sense because he wants to hold the middle as long as possible, and Despoiled Ground, which is basically, hey, at the end of the game, if I'm still around, I get 15 points, basically. This was interesting. He went second, so I knew this was scary because that makes the Spoil Ground way better. And I'm so I have to table him or at least do enough damage in him before turn 5. Going first, Sky of Falling Stars. Double Sky of Falling Stars is really good into Plague Marines. Basically, each Catan picks up 3 Plague Marines a turn, which is just chipping. Sometimes you spike and you kill 2 Plague Marines from a squad. And if you're doing that with some shooting, you can make them take morale tests. So it's really just all about chipping the Plague Marines as much as possible before I get in there. Because 4 of these guys can absolutely mess up a squad with the right buffs. I think he committed pretty hard turn 2. He put his Plague Skull squad in the building with Miasma on it. And so I threw all my shooting into that with Ignore's cover and all my targeted mortals and stuff and managed to pick up the Plague Skull squad, which was great. So now the Plague Skull is out of the game and he has not used it. I also managed to get a King multi-charge off on 2 Plague Marine units, and a squad of Scorpex comes to back him up. I think I pick up a whole squad of Plague Marines and knock one down to 2. So at this point, we've killed basically 3 squads of the 6 Plague Marines, which is great. And the other squad is tagged by the Void Dragon, so they are stuck in combat with him. Steve knows he needs to deal with the Void Dragon because if he kills the Void Dragon, he can charge with the squad that the Void Dragon's in combat with. So he gets all his characters closest to it so that they can smite the hell out of it. But in order to do this, he needs to get them further away from the king, who's also right there. So he has to get them all within explosion range of the Void Dragon, which is exactly what I was counting on. So he kills the Void Dragon with I think he mortals it, which is it's at 6 right now because it took a bunch of punching for free. Mortals it down to 3, and then he uses the stratagem for the guys in combat to shoot their grenades as if they were pistols. and they kill him with grenades. Just barely, but they kill him with grenades. He does explode on a 4-up. For those who don't know, Catan explode on a 4-up, and it's a 6-inch explosion for D3 mortals. So this goes off, hits like all of his characters, which is great because assassinate. Abaddon comes gunning for the king. He shows all of his shooting in the king to kill the menhirs. So the Abaddon's like guaranteed to one-shot him. Abaddon runs in. Abaddon's fight lasted, so now he's fighting normal because fight first, fight last. The Foul Blight spawn also goes, so he's within 3 of the king. So start of the fight phase, he points at the king and he's like, "Your fight last." So now Abaddon gets to go before the king. Abaddon Thunderdomes him for like 24 damage. And I'm like, all right, hit the big red button for 1 CP, auto explode. I get a
hell yeah.
All of Steve's characters are in the explosion. All of Steve's characters die. Except for Abaddon, obviously, who's wound capped. There we go. 15 on assassinate, like turn 2. Easy. Let's go, baby. At that point, game's going great. Abaddon's at 6, but I still have a Catan. I still have 12 Scorpex. I still have like 6 Tomb Blades. And he has 2 squads of Plague Marines. One's like pretty beat up. One's on like 7 guys. One's on full, and one's on like 4 guys. So with the Scorpex and the Catan, I'm able to pick up the Plague Marines. I'm able to kill Abaddon. I'm able to, which is pretty cool actually. Steve put Abaddon into Creations of Bile. So then when I charged him with 6 Scorpex and punched him, he was able to fight on death for free because he's Creations of Bile. He manages to deal, I think I'm -1 to wounded. Maybe I didn't. Maybe this was like, screw it, dude, they're dead. I think he does 17 wounds to the Scorpex. So 1 lives on 1 wound, and then 2 come back as the reanimation protocols. So let's go. Still got 3 Scorpex in the middle of the board. At that point, it's like I still have just 9 Scorpex running around and Transcendent Catan, and he has, I think that the other Scorpex killed the Plague Marines. Yeah, he has like 14 Plague Marines, and I'm just able to pick them up by the end of the game. Because Steve really bet on like living through the whole game, his secondary scores like were not that good. He got like 1 Pip of Warp Ritual before his guys died. He didn't get any points on Despoiled because he's gone at the end of the game. Spread, I think he got it twice. And I mean, my bet paid off. I maxed no prisoners and assassinate as far as I could and purged all the vermin. Bloody game. And very fun, I might add. I always love using the king as like a sacrificial resource because he just soaks up so much damage. And then if like your opponent's army is around him, just, all right, everything's going to take D6 mortals.
That is some crazy easy strategy there, using all your big guys as bombs in that way. That's fantastic. Tragedy here that you would drop so many damn points and only pull a 99. You've dropped 3 points now across 4 rounds. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah, I've dropped 1 from Steve and 2 from Lucas, and mostly because they got the max points I could have got so far.
Amateur hour. So what I think the takeaway is here, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this, is that a lot of people, I think, are envisioning Necrons as this is an army that scores insanely well, and that's kind of its one-dimensional reality, right? Like this is an army that's going to win the race to 100. But me hearing you talk about this game, that doesn't sound right at all. This sounds like that is secondary, but you are here to bring the hurt, and that combination is what's bringing so much strength. What do you think about that?
Yeah, my list brings a lot more killing power than a lot of other Necron lists I've seen. Maybe that's incorrect. Like maybe the idea is just bring tankier stuff, like raids that just kind of flood objectives, do enough damage to slow your opponent down and then die turn 4. And they're like, all right, I won the game already. I've seen a lot of people having success with that. Like even we're talking about WTC at the start of this episode. I mean, that's what Liam Hackett's playing right now. And he's like smashing. He's just playing like 18 wraiths and 27 scarabs. And I'm like, that list does, an okay amount of damage, but it definitely lives a lot longer because it's just a bunch of guys on 4-up emblems. Yeah, I like having the ability to just kill my opponent if I want to. Maybe that's the incorrect way to play. I think it's got longer staying power as well, but like, if Necrons eventually get nerfed, yada, yada. But again, like maybe I should be playing more to their strengths. I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun playing it. And yeah, so far, like I've picked the secondaries. I think 2 games I picked mostly Necron secondaries, but none of them were like, oh, my strategy is going to be to like sit here and then die. My strategy has always been pressure, pressure, pressure. And then if you do manage to push me back, I scored a lot of points still. But what ended up happening in 2 of those games was I'm like, my opponent's going to come right at me. So I'm just going to take kill secondaries and kill them. And in every single game so far, I've managed to table all my opponents. So yeah, so far I haven't felt like the secondaries have always felt like a backup plan in case things go horribly, horribly wrong. But maybe that's just why it's so strong.
Yeah, two games. I mean, you've obviously played more than 2 games to do pressure lists with this list, but just at this tournament, 2 games of my opponent's going to come right at me, so I'm just going to take kill secondaries, and then I still table you on turn 3 or whatever. I don't know, man. I part of me is less and less convinced that Necrons are just a secondary problem. Obviously, a lot of the secondaries are ridiculous, some more than others. I think a lot of Necron people that might, for lack of a better word, bandwagon onto Necrons and start playing them recently because they're, in the near future because they're really powerful, might just pick, treasures,
machines and purge.
Ancient machineries and purge the vermin every game. And purge the vermin is correct basically every single game.
Yep.
The vast majority of opponents anyway. But purge or treasures and ancient machineries aren't always correct. There are many games in which you don't want to throw tons of units out on a midfield objectives every turn, because they're going to get killed really fast and you're just going to get yourself tabled. So I feel like a lot of people might have some trouble knowing which games to take those kind of like, I'm just going to sit here Necron secondaries as opposed to something killing or like battlefield control oriented. But yeah, it is worrisome to me that you are still like scoring in the high 90s, even just with taking, I'm going to kill you on turn 3 secondaries. That's what really blew my mind about your performance this weekend, was just how much you were killing everyone off the board, even without secondaries backing you up.
Yeah, I think you could design a list, and I mean, that's what we're seeing is Necron lists with a lot less killing power and a lot more trash that are designed to just take the 3 passive secondaries every game, and they're still scoring ridiculously high. It's cool to see that there's another strategy in the book, which is I'm going to take like counter melee pressure and have these secondaries as like a backup plan in case that pressure goes wrong or something like that. / I'm going to keep you in your DZ long enough that I win the game. And then when you do manage to push me back, good game.
Makes sense. We'll do a little recap at the end of the show here about some more Necrons. I got a couple more questions about the big picture stuff there, but I want to keep going so we can get through this very exciting round 4. So Lucas, not feeling so great, 1 and 2, walks in round day 2 to one of the best things that in my mind that you can see on a BCP when you're going into a tournament, you're not feeling so great. You're playing one of the Steger brothers, man. Walk us through, let me break it down. You're playing into Lee. He's got his Custodes. Steger's awesome people, great painters, so this is going to be a gorgeous matchup. Lee is rocking Kotiaz, very trendy these days. He's got a Blade Champ with Lock Warden, the Obulette, and Peerless Warrior, so he hits really hard. Does one of those also do something silly?
He makes you fight last.
Makes you fight last, that's the one. He's got an Alaris Captain, who has, redeploy, the movement shenanigans, and so like a deny or something?
He has a deny. He has 4 models.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's got Trajan. He's got a squad of 6 footies. He's got 2x3 Sag and Juterum. A squad of 5 prosecutors. Are prosecutors, is that the other sisters?
They're the sisters, the basic ones.
They're the regular ones? I thought that was the funky variety. Anyway, it's been a minute. 3 wardens, 3 praetors, that's bikes, and twin Calladii, which has become quite trendy in the world of Custodes. Talk us through. I gotta say, first of all, how are you feeling to play into Shadow Keepers?
Well, my previous experience with Shadow Keepers was brutal, so wasn't really. I mean, obviously, was looking forward to this because Lee is an awesome dude. Both the Steigers are. I think it is pronounced Steiger, by the way.
Apologies.
Yeah, the good old German. If the I comes after the E, it makes an I sound, so it's Steiger. And pretty cool list. Shadow Keepers, kind of dookies on orcs. It's pretty scary to run into an army that cuts your damage by a quarter. But I had some ideas this game. The Caladius were actually not amazing at killing my tanks. So his long-range anti-tank is like the 3 Praetors. So if I can stay away from them, I'm solid. What I didn't realize about that was that the Caladius are very good at killing all of my small squads really reliably because they just hit on 2s and wound on like 2s and 3s. So he opens the game by just gunning down 20 Gretchen, and I'm very sad. That is one way to counter get the good bits. It can sometimes feel like an insurmountable secondary. But if you kill the units that the orcs want to leave behind on their midfield / backfield objectives, i.e. Gretchen, if you kill them in the first 2 turns, that can be a really good counter. So he opened by doing that. But the Scouring is a really favorable mission for me. So I take a turn to kind of set up in the midfield, and then I just blitz in. And on my go turn, I killed 5 of his shield guard. I killed the blade champion. I killed his prosecutors. I killed all 6 Sagittarium. And I think that was it. And I killed one of the Praetors. So I blitz in and I just do a ton of damage. And then that really surprised me, honestly, how much I was able to do to Custodes. They were always a really tanky army in my mind. It was a combination of, this was the first time I played against them since the nerfs. So like, I don't have any rerolls in my army, so I don't care about that stratagem. And I think, what was it with Transhuman? It's like only on infantry now, but you can multi-use it or something, or it might be once per game. Is Transhuman once per game, Nick? Do you remember?
I don't think so. I think it's infantry only.
Okay, so bikers can't use it anymore. Yeah. But like, because he had so few CP and because of some of the nerfs to Custodes a couple months back, he was just not really able to stand up to my damage, even subtracting 1 from my number of attacks. Like, AP1 attacks just are not where Custodes want to be. They're paying a lot of points per wound, and to take a 3-up save against a ton of AP1 attacks is kind of sad for them. Like, tons of my units in my army were just kind of like mowing through him. So he had kind of a last-ditch Hail Mary attempt to like lock down the middle objective, and it was working for a minute. But some splash mortals I put on Trajan early on, plus a couple of squads of dudes mobbing him, meant that he ended up dying pretty quickly on turn 4 after his like Hail Mary attempt to take back the board. Was pretty fun. Ended up being a 86-61 victory for orcs. Definitely kind of reaffirmed my thought that my secondaries are not very strong at all. Obviously, get the good bits is good, but after that, I'm basically looking to kill secondaries. I was talking about Green Tide at the beginning when I was going over my list. Green Tide is also not very reliable because squads start getting ablated. You don't really want to spend cognitive thinking time thinking how am I going to get 10 models in this squadron, when I'm trying to go charge things and go do actions and all sorts of that stuff. It's just hard to make sure that 10 guys are staying in each quadrant, especially when 20 Gretchen die turn 1, because they're your best Green Tide unit. So I ended up getting a 6 on that. I really should have just taken no prisoners and been happy with like the 8 or whatever he gave up, but my mistake. So yeah, good game against Lee. Glad I finally got to play. I'm glad I finally got to beat Custodes. I really have had trouble with Custodes in the past, especially Shadow Keepers, and it was fun to kind of overcome that challenge.
Hell yeah, man. Redemption. Good stuff.
Oh, I do want to mention, this was one game where the +1 strength and the 5 influence from the WOG doesn't feel like enough into the best armies in the game by a long shot. But into kind of peer matchups to where orcs are, it matters so much. Like all my commandos and Beast Nagas being strength 5 and 6 respectively, Truck Knobs being strength 8, strength 6 on the Choppas, 5-up invuln army wide basically means that on my go turn, like all of his damage is cut by a third. That felt really gross. Like I hit him super hard on the first turn just with like basic orcs and like Truck Knobs and stuff, and then he like tried to clap back and killed like 20 guys, and I was like, oh, okay, I still have most of my army left. It is, for armies that are like on the same power level as orcs, the new WoW feels really good. It's just into like the top echelon of codexes right now where it just doesn't feel like enough.
Lucas, how'd having your AP1 be useful feel?
Felt amazing. The WoW expired and I had like 10 commandos charge 3 custodians and kill 2.5 of them. I was like, sick.
Yeah, that is one thing I noticed about Custodes with Armor Contempt going away. They feel, with Armor Contempt being introduced, they feel way less tanky than their Astartes counterparts.
It's real
feels
awkward.
It's very
Armor of Contempt needs to either go or Custodians need to get it, and I don't know which one I like less.
I don't know, because AP feels like it's such a deciding factor into Armor of Contempt that it's like it's meta defining.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's not defining as much as just you have to consider Armor of Contempt in your list construction.
Yeah, you need like AP 2 or like 3, honestly.
But like if you over attack for tons of like high AP, then you lose to lots of invulns, and it's just at a weird spot where like AP either means nothing or everything, and either way, someone is going to be upset by the way that shakes out. Either my AP1 orcs will hit your Terminators or Space Marines and do 0 damage for way too many points, or they'll hit your Custodians and do way too much damage for too few points. I don't know. As much as I've enjoyed Armor of Contempt and it has made Marines feel truly tanky again, which is what I wanted it to, it's also kind of skewed what everyone's bringing in their list, and it feels kind of bad. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
No, I completely agree. I might want to see it less universally applied to Marines. Like, I would love to see, especially because it so clearly polarizes what is good and what isn't. I would love to see that just be like a Terminator and Gravis rule.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, these guys, 2-up isn't enough. They're extra tanky now. And then the regular guys are regular guys. Yeah. And then make them correspondingly more expensive because of it.
Like, Terminator's already crazy expensive. You're 45 point, 50 point guy. All right, cool. Yeah, you should definitely be tanky, you know?
Yeah, or like make it work better on Terminators. One solution I've heard people say is like it only works on AP 1 or 2 or AP 1, 2, and 3. Don't reduce like AP 4 by 1. Like, come on. That's
pretty funny when
why does it not have like 100% chance to just cut through your armor save?
Yeah. It's pretty funny when my Harlequins were shooting 2-up AOC in cover, and they're like, I have a 4-up? I guess a fusion pistol? And I'm like, cool, dude. Like, let's go.
Yeah, Sanguinary Guard should not have a 4-up armor save against a Melt-A-Gun, a weapon literally designed to cut through like bulkheads.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
So it's simply
so there's something to be figured out there still. Hopefully we see some kind of adjustment made to that in a while, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. As the Marine players are all rejoicing over how much they love this rule. Maybe it also doesn't stack with cover. I maintain that is like a very easy thing to fix. It's the and everyone has it's the 2-up saves, I think, that are the problem on regular dudes. So pulling that off cover might help. Anyway, lots of good options out there for what to do about that. Whatever the case, Custodians need an adjustment. Like, it doesn't they feel weird now that Marines feel right. So we'd be curious to see what happens to them in the future. Anyway, speaking of things that are not Custodians, we're going to move on in finally to our final round, which is on Nick's favorite mission, which is Data Scry Salvage. So good. Actually, before we get on to round 5, a brief interlude for our boy Sponathan. I finally got him up here.
It did suck having to vaporize him with the king. He did take 6 mortal wounds to the dome. So, sorry, Sponathan.
Tragic. Gone but not forgotten. All right, Sponathan, now you're gone again. And we'll move on into round 5, which is, to be clear, the finals. Nick, have you played in the finals of a 5-rounder before?
All the time. I feel like the last every 5-rounder, not every 5. I think 4 of the last 5. 3 of the last 4 5-rounders I got to. I was on top table at the end. Yeah, the only one I wasn't was the February GT, where Noah smashed me around 3 and then I got second. Lol. But yeah, so I have this history of constantly losing on top table for like the past year, which is a bummer. And so I go from like potentially winning the tournament to like rocketing down to 6th place because battle points are a great scoring system. So anyways, yeah, Data Scry Salvage. I knew we didn't know the missions before the tournament, but we got the mission pack day 1, and I saw Data Scry as a finals, and I'm like, God damn it, I hate this mission. What a garbage finals. Because my experience with this mission is usually it's this like kind of like grindy back and forth where people only get 4 primary a turn, and then one person goes second, and they're like, oh, you didn't table me? I get a 12. Good game. But now I got broken secondary, so maybe I can leverage that to my advantage. And also, we're playing where the Player places diagonal and not stupid Dawn of War, so we can actually influence the midfield now instead of my opponent's safe objectives only. Yeah, let's
So
go over the matchup.
speaking of that opponent, you are running into. So let's see. So far, to be clear, check your path. You played Chaos Knights. You played Orcs. You played Imperial Knights. You played Death Guard. So 2 Knights, a Power Armor, and an Orc. And now we're going right back into Knights, baby. Back again in the mix. And
my
this
favorite
time,
army on my favorite mission.
Absolutely. And this time, I've got a feeling you're not going to be turn 1 charging his Warlord with Scorpex. And even if you do, he still has CP. So we'll see if this one shakes a little bit differently. We are actually playing into the man, the myth, the legend, Noah Badome from earlier on the show. I think we're probably gonna put out. You guys have a little back and forth in that interview that we did about this game. We'll probably put that out as a bit of bonus content actually, because I want to get your reactions to this game fresh. And Lucas, could you walk us through Noah's take on House Tyrannus list, and particularly how it might contrast with Hank's?
Sure. Yeah, again, House Tyrannus, because you have to be playing that, or maybe one of a couple other things to be playing Knights right now. Oaths, same old. Obsec, Lay Low the Tyrants. I think Lay Low the
exact same.
Is Lay Low the Tyrants is the rerolls?
Yeah, it's the exact same as Hank's.
Okay. We got 3 Helverns. One of them has the Bastard's Helm, so haha, shoot. We got 3 Warglaves. We got 1 Warglaive, and then we got an Errant. He's got the Master Tactician, so we can use the free CP thing. Judgment is...
I think that's the indirect relic.
No, it's the relic. I think.
Oh? What is it?
The what?
It's the relic Meltagun. The one that's like always super mode. It's like D6 plus 4 damage or something all the time.
That's Fury of Mars. I think the Judgment is the weird rocket pod, something like that. And then
Judgment
we've got
is the Stormspear rocket pod confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah, the Melt is the Fury of Mars, and then Machine Focus. I don't know what that is, but then the Knight of Mars is the you get an auto 6. It's either you get to Virtuous immediately or you get an auto 6, so you have more chances to just do flat 6 mortals on the
Knight of Mars. Knight of Mars is the once per game you can turn like anything into a 6 for this guy, and then once you become Virtuous, it's once per player turn.
Okay. So he's probably making some auto 6s pretty early on with his Meltagun. Yep. And then we got the Knight Paladin, who's a Princeps, so cool, inventive combo, giving reroll 1s to the Errant. And then we've got some stuff, Iron Bulwarks of 4-up invuln against shooting, Revered Knight, that's fight first in melee, and then Revered Paragon, I don't know what that is. He's got a Paladin to buff the Errant and do a little bit of punching.
Yeah. So this
I got real quick, I got Revered Paragon for you right now. That's just the stratagem to give that thing a Warlord trait.
Oh, okay. So many things on there. I was like, I don't know which ones are buffs and which ones are other things, but that one stood out to me. Yeah, I don't remember if he was playing with Judgment or the Relic Melta. I don't really remember, but anyways, Judgment's listed only, so I guess it was the Stormspear rocket pod. Basically, I knew my game plan this mission was make it so the king just doesn't get shot turn 1, or hopefully not turn 2 either. So I basically planned out all of my player place terrain instantly. I'm like, all right, no, I'm not going to be coy with this. I'm just going to look at angles and stuff and which angles, yada yada. And so I just kind of constructed a castle and realized where my first drop would be most important and did that. And then he couldn't really influence the rest of my castle with how I had designed it, and I just slammed down the terrain. I think I made one objective pretty safe, one objective somewhat safe, and one objective really safe. It was a far objective. But the king and the 3 locusts were just kind of chilling nearby my home field objective. There was no way he could really get an angle unless he's getting into my DZ. So they just get to sit behind walls and just launch 5 anti-tank shots at Knights every turn. And I was like, I need to take this one slow. It's a hold 2, hold 3. There's a lot of no man's land. We're pretty far apart from each other. Noah's, he's going to play cautiously. He just saw me, smash Tyrannus Knights. He knows what's up. I took Bring It Down, kill Knights, get points. I took Ancient Machineries because this one is actually fairly easy because there's like 2 safe and there's 2 far. If I scan all 4 of those, that's 16 points. And I took Purge the Vermin because keep stuff out of my side of the board. He went back and forth on a few actually. He was like this, no. He ended up deciding on Yield No Ground, which is obvious. That's, go take over the board and keep stuff away from your side of the board. He took Honor, which is play the game, get 15, and he took the big dual one instead of, I think, Renew the Oath. He was debating between like dual, Renew the Oaths, and grind, and he ended up doing dual. Honorable Duel is kind of a funny one. It's reversed to the last, where you look at your opponent's 3 most expensive units, and you're like, all right, I need to kill those. If you kill them, I think it's in shooting, it's 3 VP. If you kill them in melee, it's 4 VP. And if you do it in melee with a character, it's like 5 VP or something like that. So he basically wants to go punch the Catan and the King with his characters to get a lot of points. And even if he doesn't punch them, he still gets points for killing them. And it's like, that makes sense. Those are my most important units, and the Catan are going to come running right at you. So sounds good. I go first. I realize there is like a 7-inch charge onto 2 Warglaives with a squad of Scorpex. And I'm like, let's go, baby. And they run on in there. The Void Dragon gets a nice 6 on his advance, so he just wubs up 14, and the Transcendent Catan goes in like move blocks kind of, / gets some mortals ready to go. The Transcendent goes to support the Scorpex, because I'm like, I don't think 2 Scorpex with just +1 to hit and like +1 strength. Actually, they would have +2 strength and attack. I'm like, they don't have wound rerolls though, so I'm like, I don't know if that kills 2 Orclaves. So I'm gonna go send this Catan out to like drop some mortals on them and hopefully help, because something that's important is the Tyrannus Feel No Pain doesn't actually work against mortal wounds. So Noah would have to spend a CP to get the 5 of Feel No Pain against mortal wounds, and he only starts on 1, so he's up to 2. I know he probably doesn't want to spend that one there because he probably wants to use defensive strats in combat. Yeah, King and Locust begin hammering stuff from far away. Tomb Blades go out in Ancient Machines. I got some Scorpex in the bottom right, which are basically behind my really safe objective. They're like, come on down here. We'll Thunderdome whichever knight comes down here. I make a charge into the Warglaives. I kill both the Warglaives, surprisingly. There was one on 7 wounds, which I dropped some mortals on. Noah was like, gonna split strats, but he's like, I'm just gonna put all the defensive strats on one knight. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So the one knight on full health has transhuman and +1 save in combat. Doesn't matter. Get out of here. Get off my board, Warglaive. He's gone. So both the Warglaives are dead, and the Scorpex are successfully move blocking another Warglaive and the Paladin, which is great because I'm looking at a 12 next turn on primary. And also like another easy purge because Noah's not coming to my side of the board. The Void Dragon, is just sitting on the middle of the board. It's also on an objective, threatening charges next turn. So Noah's not clearing that objective. Yeah. Noah responds. He picks up the 6 Scorpex that are move blocking him. He puts the 3 wounds on the Void Dragon. I don't think he manages to get any shots on the Transcendent. There's a squad of 6 Scorpex down on the bottom right. He shot some Ignore LOS at them with the mortal strat. He did use Master Tactician, so with some mortals, I think he picked up like 2. He charged with a Warglaive with Advance in Charge. Something that's really unique is the Errant's buff. The Bondsman buff gives Advance in Charge, but that was pretty cool because then the Helverins can full tilt to auto advance 9, so they can go, I think, 12 + 9, then go 21 and then charge. So they ran in. That dude carved up, killed all the Scorpex down to 1. 1 came back. Those 2 went bonk, hit that thing down to 5 because I had -1 damage. Next turn, the Void Dragon looks at the guy on 5 wounds and he's like, what if I Voltaic Storm you? Hits him for 5. Thanks, dude. Absorbs his soul. Runs up to the other Helverins. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to kill a Helverin, tag a Helverin, move block the Errant. This is great. I didn't have any other charges with Scorpex. So they just kind of shuffle around position. King and Locust keep lancing. The Void Dragon runs in. All right. 5 attacks hitting on 2s into one of the Helverins, and then I'll just base the other one. Let's go, right? This guy, I think there's like one without bonds. So I'm going to the one without bonds. Well, let's go. 4 hits. All right. Wounding on 3s. Let's go. All right. It's strength 9, AP 4, D3 +3. 4 1s and 2s. All right. Bummer. Don't do any damage to a Helverin. But at least I base both of them. They're stuck in combat. Only one can fall back and shoot, and it's 2 CP. One of them, now these guys have 4 attacks. They hit on 3s. They wound on 5s. They get a hit and a wound reroll. He goes, stomp, 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 stomp. 4 hits. Stomp, 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 stomp. 3 wounds. All right, cool. 3 wounds. I got a 3 up armor. I'm on 8. So I just need to make 2 of them. 3 1s and 2s. Void Dragon's down. Void Dragon is killable next turn, which is a big, big bummer. And that's when Noah starts pushing back because he does kill the Void Dragon. There's actually a moment where he doesn't use the mortals on the charge because he deals like 3 in shooting and gets the Void Dragon to 2. there's a moment where I think the Void Dragon only failed 2 invulns in melee. And I'm like, dang, dude, that was close. If the Errant didn't kill the Void Dragon, big bad. And that's just something I've been realizing is like the Knights need to devote a lot of resources in the Catan. And if they spike their saves, like, not good. And that's exactly what happens the next turn. I think he put in Paladin kind of close to my lines to try to go charge an objective and take it from me, because he's like, I can't let Nick keep getting 12s and also like keep putting me on 4s. Or I think 0s at this point. So that guy fails his charge into the Catan to steal the objective from me, and then 6 Scorpex go up and dome that guy. And then Noah has this turn where he's like, all right, I'm going to throw all my shooting into this one Transcendent Catan, go kill it in melee with the Errant, go get 5 points because I'm killing one of my dual targets in melee. Doesn't do any wounds to it in shooting. He makes me take 7 saves and I make all 7 4-ups. All right, now it's impossible to kill because it's on 7 wounds. So even if he does the mortal strat on the charge, the most he can do is 3. Most he can do is 3 in melee. And that's where the dice falls the other way, right? Transcendent Catan just pops off. I start pushing him back. And I think at that point, you can see the writing on the wall, and we just kind of call the game from there. So we had these 2 very pivotal moments around the Catan. Once like the threat was dealt to the King was coming out to play. And once Noah saw that, he's like, all right, you got a full health King coming out to go kill some Helferins. Like, that's it. Good game, man. So yeah. List goes on.
The robots go down. What's your final score, Nick?
100.
Hundo to what?
56.
Hundo to 56. Man. Whew. All right, so at the beginning of this episode, you're telling us about how Knights are absolutely terrifying for you. They're the worst matchup you can imagine. You've now played various flavors of them 3 times, and you're 3-0 at the tournament. What gives? What are you missing, or what did they not execute properly? Like, are you still scared of Knights? What's going on?
I'm scared of Knights on like mediocre terrain where they get the first drop. Terrain here was better than expected. There at least was like 2 nice buildings on each board, so I was able to like make myself safe from one angle and build a castle. Usually, it also helped that I got the first terrain drop into both Knights players. Yeah, again, that's what's swingy, which is a bit of a bummer. That's like you could lose the game on terrain. I think also my tech pieces worked out super well. Like King and 3 Locus sitting behind a wall and just shooting Knights that are unobscurable. Awesome. Void Dragon performs incredibly well because just the ability of him to pop off into Knights. We saw in my first matchup where he soloed the Chaos Knight army. And then the amount of resources he sucks up. Because like even though he whiffed into Noah, like he soaked up all of like half of Noah's army for a turn, which is great for the rest of my army. That means his army is not coming towards me. It means I'm scoring my points. It means there's like, as we saw with the Transcendent Catan, there's times that the dice can spike and things go the other way. So the fact that I have units that can like exist out in the open in Knights and don't get instantly one shot is very strong. And that's something I took for granted.
Very cool. Very cool. We probably actually should have held this to be our last game covered because Mr. Olsen Johnson, that does make you king of the castle. Do I have a little crown I can give you? I don't think I do. But imagine that I was thought that far ahead. Instead, you can look at Spawnathan again.
There we go.
There's your little trophy.
Actually, I'm gonna go grab my trophy.
Oh, you have a trophy. Go get a trophy. In the meantime, when Nick is getting his trophy, let's talk about your game 5, Lucas. You're playing back into good old-fashioned Chaos Space Marines. Emperor's Children in particular. Who's fielding these boys?
Paul.
Hey! It's Paul Winters, everyone's favorite little demon of Slaanesh, as she is. And Paul's running Emperor's Children, which makes sense for Slaanesh. They're also just generally quite competent as a faction. I just played him to him last night. Very scary, lots of fight phase manipulation. Let's see what he's got. He's got himself a Dank Apostle, who I assume is out here handing out, what does he hand out? Like Trans-Hitman Determinators, full rerolls to hit, or Advance and Charge? Is that the 3 spells they take these days?
Yep.
Yeah. He's got the Disco Lord with, I assume one of those is the thing that makes him like better in melee and phase locks him to 3 damage once per game. And the other one gives him +1 to wound, reroll to wound, something like that.
It's close, yeah. The Flames of Spike gives him reroll to wound and 6s to wound deal mortals, which works in shooting for some reason. And then trade. He doesn't actually have the phase lock. He has Mantle
okay.
Traders, which gives him a free CP and reroll ones to hit in the fight phase.
Cool. He's got himself a normal block of cultists, 3 squads of 5 noise boys, all with blast masters. Is he going Sonic Blaster than the regular guys or Bolt Pistol Chainsword?
He's going Sonic Blaster.
Oh, fun. Okay. He's got that classic Chaos Space Marine Terminator brick that we've all come to know and love, featuring 10 boys, 6 fists, 1 chain fist, combi melta, and the -1 to wound, I assume is what that is on the Sergeant?
Yep.
Cool beans. He's got 3 squads of 5 possessed, and he's got Ye Olde Abaddonk rounding out the list for 2K. What do we think of this CSM list?
It's pretty good. It's a solid one. The only thing that I'm not sold on are the Noise Marines. I feel like in some matchups they're really solid, but in other ones they're basically just hella expensive tactical Marines. But they can fulfill useful roles like into Orcs. They were the majority of the reason why this game was challenging for me. There are a lot of, obviously the Disco Lord slaps. Abaddon's a problem. Possessed are a really, really effective, cheap skirmishing unit that I struggle to really deal with because my equivalent is pigs, which is like the same price, but just worse. So he's got a lot going for him, but the Noise Marines are the real big problem because they can just sit back at 36 inches and just doink away with those stupid blast masters they have. And then even when I get into combat with them, they make a bunch of swings that fight first, and they're not terrible in combat either. One thing Paul doesn't have that Emperor's Children players should consider is the Sergeant of the Noise Marine squad should always have a Power Fist. I don't know how expensive it is, but he gets 4 attacks that when you have an icon hit on 2s and, it's on turn 3, exploding 6s. Like, it's just nice to have a Power Fist buried in that squad who really, really slaps. So Noise Marines are a little bit easy to tag. Otherwise, they're not incredible in combat. But the Power Fist really takes them over the edge. So
yeah, what I see, before you jump in, what I see is missing here. Where's the wizard?
He probably wants to be able to take before the witch. I think this list actually came from Anthony, who is someone who really likes taking before the witch.
Anthony,
I get that, but like, they have a Warp Charge 5 spell that heals a dude D3 and brings a dude back. Like, that seems like such a big deal to leave at home.
That's
right.
So
wouldn't you rather not have to pay CP endpoints to take that guy and instead take like 3 more 3 wound bodies?
Why are you paying CP for that guy?
Doesn't he have like relics and warlock traits and stuff?
You can, you don't have to. Like, I don't say it's necessary. And like, you can't take 3 more guys. The Terminators cap at 10, right? And only 1 squad of Terminators can have -1 to wound. It just seems like a really useful spell to me.
I think it was mostly a meta call. Anthony knew he had to beat TJ to like win any local tournament, and TJ is playing T-Sun, so he needs Abhor into that.
I see it. Okay. Anyway, talks about enough about other games. Let's talk about this one. Lucas, tell me how this all shake out. We are playing Data Scry. What do you think of that for this mission, for this matchup?
Well, the secondaries are much worse for me. We both took no prisoners and assassinate because neither of us can really realistically take action / board control based secondaries on Data Scry Salvage just because of the way the objectives and the deployment zones are positioned. So I ended up taking banners just because I knew he wasn't going to get to me super fast. And then we both took, and he took engage and didn't do super well on it. But then we both took no prisoner and assassinate. And he scored like twice as well as me on both of those. I got a 7 on both, and he got a 15 on prisoners and a 10 on assassinate. So yeah, there wasn't a lot about how this game went that I learned a lot from. I felt like we just were playing pretty normal. I send a unit forward and it kills your unit. You send a unit forward, it kills mine. You got more wounds out of that than I did. So I lost. And then the whole time I also had to contend with his 15 Noise Marines that were just in the backfield, had moved up onto his like 2 objectives that are close to his DZ, and were just like firing down that lane, blasting all of my wagons and stuff. It's challenging to go into a matchup where the opponent has more fight phase control than you, punches about the same, and has better shooting. Like, I don't really have an advantage other than that I'm faster. Like, I can advance and charge every turn for free, and then 1 turn of army-wide advance and charge. He can't really do that. That's my only advantage. So on my WOG turn, I was able to do a lot of damage, but then after that, I just got ground out. Pretty narrow loss, 71 to 78, but not a whole lot I could have learned from that game other than just basic stuff about, like decide what you're going to do with units before you actually commit them. There was a part way through the game where I'm like, I've lost this for sure. And I just kind of like started throwing some units around and I got further in the hole. Whereas if I kind of realized that those units could have been fulfilling another role and getting me points, maybe it would have been a closer game, but definitely felt a little bit insurmountable in terms of we both didn't have good secondary options and my list just happened to give up a lot of kill secondaries. So yeah, we tied on the primary. We both had basically the same primary score. He beat me by 2. But then he absolutely smashed me on the secondary. So bit of a bummer.
Interesting. Do you think that given how No, go ahead.
I haven't had that experience with Chaos Space Marines otherwise. I feel like certainly in other missions and against other legions that aren't as good in the fight phase as Emperor's Children, I'm feeling a little better. Like Word Bearers in particular, where they're a little bit slower and they're also they don't have fight first, fight last everywhere. You can really envelop them and pick away their screening units, skirmishing units, and then just leave them with here's my characters plus Terminators. Oh, they can't do anything because they're just chilling in the middle. That's it. That's where I've had success against Marines in the past, Chaos Space Marines. But yeah, with the shooting and fight phase control of Emperor's Children, it's tough.
Interesting. Okay. So with all the fight phase control that he has, do you think that there might have been a big picture strategy that would have paid off a little bit better, or does this matchup, do you feel like you played this 10 times, you lose all of them?
Probably not. There was a lot of stuff I could have done better. I should have. The big thing was terrain, because of how the diagonal is positioned. What I should have done was put a big building close to his 2 objectives where I could stage units where I'm out of threat range, but he always has to account for the fact that my unit can blitz out of a transport and hit him. As it was, there was no building there, so that area was just an open area with some area terrain and a forest. And so he was able to just set all of his noise marines in there and just pew down the angles. And Emperor's Children ignore hit penalties, so he doesn't care that he's shooting through a forest. So he was just blasting down there, and I had nothing to threaten them. That was one thing I could have done differently. And then the other thing I could have done differently was prioritized Possessed over Noise Marines. The Noise Marines were far away. I couldn't really get to them very easily, but I was still like, I'll just go for long bomb charges. I'll see if I can make it happen. And someone's calling me. Go away. I landed some charges. I didn't land others. And regardless, that was just the wrong play. I should have burst his Possessed down to try to get rid of those units, because they ended up being a problem in the late game, running onto my backfield and out trading me, because Possessed are a good unit. So definitely learned some stuff from the game. There were things I could have done better. I feel like it's kind of a toss-up matchup, but played really well. The Emperor's Children are definitely a tough opponent.
Gotcha. Good stuff. Okay. Cool. So at the end of the event then, and Nick, of course, is finishing as our champion 5-0, and Lucas not feeling quite as hot, ending up 2-3. Very nice. Let me actually see if I can get. Can I get just Nick? Can I do that?
There's
no, not
trophy.
Me. I want Nick. There we go. Okay,
there we go.
Can we get just Nick? Is that a thing we can do? Yeah, Nick, there we go.
Nick and Spawnathan's pretty good though. So
Nick, you like Nick and Spawnathan?
The Warhammer 40k Aegis Open.
There
pretty
we
cool
go.
trophy.
Oh, that doesn't look right. Yeah, sweet trophy. Very nice.
Thank you to the store, Aegis Games. Lights up too, but we need to get batteries. So
cool. So I'll throw Spawnathan back up there as a cute thing to look at. Let's do some big picture reflections. Actually, no. Before that, because I still want to do this while I've still got a little bit of energy, and I realize we've been going on for a while. We do want to make one really big, very exciting announcement relating to this. The title of this episode is "Hail to the King," and partially that is because our boy Nicholas Olsen Johnson is in fact the king and has won the tournament, and partially that is because we are very excited today to be announcing our very first line of TNG specific merchandising. Woo! Get very excited, everyone! And one of the things you can buy, I'm going to see how this works. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's go window, that one. Okay. Can you see what's going on here? I don't know. I can't see what's going on over there.
Yep.
Awesome. It looks good. Cool. This is the Best in Tabletop Network or store, bestintabletop.com/store. And you can check out all of our new stuff. We got a bunch of generic network branded stuff. And then we got these sweet TNG specific stuff. This is the one referenced in the name of the show. This is your Hail to the King shirt, BIDPOD The Next Generation. I'm going to be rocking this at the next GT I'm at, if I can get my hands on one. They come in all sorts of colors. I personally am partial to the green. It doesn't preview it, apparently. We're working on that. And we do come in all sorts of, shall we say, wargamer-friendly sizes. So definitely check that out. We got that one. We got my personal favorite, my Guns Are for Chumps shirt. Lucas over here with Stomp 'em Good. We got a couple other ones you can check out as well. And in addition to, if you don't love our show as much as the others, you can also get just our logo. You can get some of the cool Frontiers merch. And if you don't love shirts, we also have tumblers with all of our stuff on it, which is a lot of fun. So you can take a sip out of your Hail to the King tumbler while glaring menacingly at your foolish
tabling your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also a big fan of Lucas's second one is last name Bunga, first name Unga, for all those who are confused about your play style. But yeah, we got headbands, we got phone cases, we got all sorts of cool stuff. So definitely come on in and check it out. Again, that's bestintabletop.com/store. We'll link it in the description to this in all places. Check it out. It's awesome merch, and it does support the network as well as us individually. We'd really appreciate your support. So go check that out right now.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm super happy with how this turned out.
Awesome. Very excited for all of that. So with that pitch out of the way, let's come back to our tournament here. We're just talking to Lucas. Let's get Nick's overall reflections first. Easy stuff first. How do you feel about the list? Anything that you might have changed overall? I realize you went 5-0, but everything's a learning experience. What are you thinking going forward?
I mean, I think it's really good. I don't have any gigantic changes. I need to play against more army types to have them expose the weaknesses in the list. I played against Tau the other night, and that was the first game where I didn't table them and they tabled me, but I still won the game. And I wonder if there's something more that the Tau player could do to pressure me so that doesn't happen, so they table me and they win. And if so, I need to think of some sort of way to either change my playstyle or change the list. There wasn't anything glaring that stood out to me except the lack of trash units to throw on objectives. Every time I threw Tomb Blades out, he just instantly killed them. And it's well, I need another unit now to go out there and take that objective so I can score treasures. So it does feel kind of dumb to have the Scorpex do that. So they need to perform double duty. And if the Tau player is smart, they could stay back so I don't get to charge. And I do have to commit a real unit to just holding an objective, which is bad. So it might be something move some points around to see if I can fit some Scarab squads in the list, at least 2 squads or something else. I don't know. Maybe switch out a squad of Scorpex for a squad of Wraiths so they can perform move blocking and charging and holding objective duty, kind of that sort of thing. That would be the big thing. The Void Dragon as well. I'm always going to pay attention. At singles events, I think he might be necessary in tonight's. Maybe I'd try some games without him in tonight's and see if I still slap them so hard. We'll see. Cutting him to a Transcendent would give me 70 points, which would be pretty okay. But again, there's a lot of random vehicles wandering around in the meta, and I think he poses a unique threat that people aren't prepared for. So,
very cool. And Lucas, this entire event was a big experiment, dipping your toe into something very foreign. And you said at the start of the show that if it didn't have enough juice, you were probably going to go play Chaos Knights. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing a lot of juice going on right now. What are you thinking about the list?
Yeah, it was fun. But I'm definitely done with orcs for the time being. They're just kind of bad right now, unfortunately. Somehow the warg changes were not enough and the points changes. So we're going to play Chaos Knights now. I think there's I think the best Chaos Knights list are more shooting heavy. Because they're innately good in melee and it's difficult to kill them in melee because of -1 damage. It's hard to charge them. It can be really hard to kill Chaos Knights in melee, so they're inherently very defensive against melee armies, so it's better to just take a lot of guns and give yourself some competition against the shooting armies out there. But I'm going to play a Pressure Chaos Knight style anyway, even if it's not optimal, because that's the kind of play style I like, and I think it's going to be really fun. Let me go. Actually, Nick, could you grab my Rampager and show them off? Yeah. Okay. So I built initially a Desecrator, which is the laser gun guy, because I wanted to have some shooting on my list, and then I realized that was boring and lame. So I cut the arms off and remagnetized them, and now the homie has the claw and the sword. So I got myself a Rampager, and he's going to be leading a whole bunch of war dogs. Look at that man's. Let's go. For those who might be listening and not watching, there is a very large rampy boy, Mr. Rampager, who's coming to a deployment zone near you, and he's gonna crump you once he gets there. So I'm gonna be taking him. I'm gonna be taking some carnivores. I know they're not as good as the stalkers, but I don't care. I think the carnivores look sick. And then I'm stalkers as well, because they're also pretty cool. So 5 of each, and then I'm gonna be running at fools. I'm gonna see if they can kill me or not. Yeah, I'm really eager to A, be able to do shooting damage, B, move faster than 5 inches, and C, just play Codex that's really powerful right now. Just for my first couple games, it's nice to have, rather than orcs where there's like 1 or 2 secondaries where you're like, yeah, this is feeling okay, I'll probably get like a 8 to a 12 on this, and then the other one you have no idea. For Chaos Knights, there's 1 or 2 secondaries where like, yeah, this is in 12 to a 15, and then my last one might be more like a 10. So yeah, they feel very straightforward and fun, which is really what I want to be playing right now after so long of struggling with orcs. So I am eager to start exploring the Legions of Chaos.
Very cool. How quickly do you think you'll be able to make that transition, get them at least 3 colored? When are we going to start seeing tournaments with the Stompy boys?
Well, it depends when tournaments are, but I've got a bunch of all my war dogs primed, and hopefully tomorrow I've set aside some time to test my scheme out and see how it's gonna look, so I can start painting. I don't want my first models to be my first tries painting knights. I'm gonna just paint some shoulder pads and stuff first to make sure it's all looking nice. But probably in the next couple weeks I'll have some models to show off.
Very cool.
What about you, Tyler? What are you looking at in the 40K world? I know you got your first rep in yesterday.
Yeah. So I got a rep in playing my Behemoth Forces list. It's Behemoth double cover, double Tyrant Guard, and then like a bunch of Formed Emperor GSC. Man, that list is so much fun. Holy smokes! I forgot how much fun 40K is. Drill Squad, super fun. The Behemoth double cover thing, very fun. Flyrants do Flyrant things. Made a couple of reasonable mistakes, and Emperor's Children in particular being such a finessey fight phase. His army, there was one place in particular that I totally got the rug pulled out from under me. Have you guys seen that frickin' Emperor's Children? I don't even know if it's Emperor's Children specific, but how good the Master of Executions can hit now?
Yep. Yes.
Holy smokes. That dude is 65 points, and he punches inches. Oh, man. He was using him to bodyguard Abaddon to prevent the Flyrant from getting in and killing Abaddon because he could pop the Fight Blast off of him. And I was like, oh, silly boy, I'll just charge him with Death Leaper so he can't pop the Fight Blast. And sure enough, that works. And I was like, great. And then Death Leaper will be where he needs to be. He'll put the OBSEC on the objective. Bada bing, bada boom. Hive Tyrant will bump in, cut his face off next turn. It's going to be great. No, because, he still fights before Death Leaper and uppercutted that dude into the moon. He was like, here's 7 mortal wounds. And then take, and I was like, I don't care how many invulns. He's dead.
That guy is premier character killer. So don't tag him with a character.
Yeah. It basically meant that I was trading the Death Leaper for Abaddon, which is a fine exchange, but like it was not the way that I had planned that working out. So it's a lot of fun. The list needs some tweaks. I have too many characters. What was crazy to me though was setting it up. I have so much stuff still, right? Like I went full tech. I had 6 characters in that list. And I still like filled my tray with models, right? I still give up full no prisoners. So Tyranids and GSC are still definitely pointed very reasonably. And I'm excited to try some more shenanigans, get a couple more reps with that list, see how it does into the wider field, because it's got great secondary play, it hits reasonably hard, and it's got good board control, which I think is a recipe for success if I'm able to apply myself properly. So we'll see how it goes.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, I do want to do a last quick reflection. Nick, how are you feeling about the state of Necrons right now? Do you Art of War says that there is no S tier army, I think is their current most recent poll. They're saying that Necrons are just the top of A and everyone has play right now. Do you feel like Necrons are an S tier build, that they need some they might need some significant tuning down? Or do you think it's just always going to be a little bit here and there? What do you think about the faction right now as a whole?
I think they're not S tier because there's some matchups they don't just wreck. What it is it's entirely based off their secondaries, I think. They have some strong data sheets. They got some good points drops in the latest chapter approved. They got massive changes back in February. But we saw back in February, it's okay, why weren't Kron sleeping then? They were able to still take Stranglehold. They probably could have taken Code of Combat or R&D, and then some kill secondary instead of Code. Why weren't they slapping? They were getting destroyed by Tau, Custodes, Harlequins, Tyranids, and the only thing that's changed since then is the King. The King went down 20 points. The King did get better at killing, that is true, and the Catan went down 50 points, and the secondaries changed, and also everyone else got worse. But the Scorpex are unchanged since they were in February. People are wow, Scorpex are so good now, and it's they were good. They were that good 6 months ago. It's just the meta wasn't in a good spot for them to play. The meta's in a pretty good spot for them to play now because not everyone, but I feel a lot of people are the army's a lot more melee. The games are a lot more melee heavy. Games are a lot more what is it? I guess everyone's secondaries got a lot worse. A lot more shooting armies have been toned down, it feels like. But I mean, I think that's still where Necrons lose. You can just still get blown off the board. I mean, that was my experience into Tau. I'm oh, this is scary still. Tau got nerfed, but this. They could still just sit back and hammer me. Shooting Knights, same thing. I'm really terrified to play into a shooting heavy Knights list with a Blessing of the Dark Master Big Knight. That guy's going to be a pain in the butt. So I think that's the same thing as, and also too, I think people playing against my list, I played a game last night where I had someone play my list and I played their list into mine. People are very surprised with the simplicity of it all. There's no tricks. There's no goofy big brain plays. The list is just yeah, everything's pretty good, and the Catan are kind of weird. They make you use your resources weirdly and make you play the game weirdly. And other than that, it just drools all over the table and scores 45 points. So I don't think it's S tier because it doesn't have that broken factor in the data sheets. If we saw some more Necron buffs in a data slate, probably bump them into S tier. But I think if you tone down their secondaries, their game becomes a lot more reasonable.
One thing that doesn't get mentioned a lot is the CP changes. Everyone got so fewer CP when Nephilim rolled around. And Necrons were never really dependent on CP, right? You needed a couple 1 CP stratagems over the course of the game. They obviously have good stratagems, but you're not like armies that are I need this 2 CP stratagem to function, and I need it every turn, or I need to fire and fade every turn. Not that that's really a thing anymore. I need to do X, Y, and Z every single turn. You're I guess I'll swap a power. I guess I'll be +1 strength on this unit of Scorpex if I really need to. You're not that dependent on CP, and you can really see that in your detachment choices, right? You gave up the patrol. You exchanged 80. You wanted 80 points back from dropping your immortals, and you're willing to drop 3 CP for that. CP aren't really important for Necrons, and they're really important for everyone else. And that's another reason why they're super good right now is they're basically independent of how many CP they have.
Yep. I'd say it's kind of just things have hit the right moment. Maybe there's some S tier units in there, but I don't think the overall army is. The King, I definitely call an S tier unit now. Dude is
he's
insane.
ridiculous for 400 points.
Yeah. I Lucas and I were making a goofy top 10 named characters list the other night. I think there was some stuff in there that was trolling, was us messing around, but I do think our top 3 is correct with Abaddon, the King, and Morven Vol. I think he's definitely up there with those 3 now.
Yep.
So. Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I guess I'd agree. Yeah, no S tier army. Necrons definitely are the best, but there are armies that can beat them. It does just suck when your army can't beat them, though. Like it is kind of Knights-like a little bit, where it's a bit binary, where it's like if you don't have forward pressure or like multi-phase damage, you're probably just gonna get run over.
I think that's an and. I think you need multi-phase damage and forward pressure and good scoring to even have a shot in hell.
Yeah.
And that's why they feel a little bit dumb right now, is because they're good at doing all three of those.
Have you played much into Leviathan recently?
No, I haven't played into Nids at all with Necrons. The armies I'm scared of now, I'm scared of Tau. I'm scared of Harlequins. Blood Angels, theoretically. We haven't played that practice game yet. Shooting Knights is still scary, but I think that my tech pieces give me the edge into both those. And I think the last one is Nids, because Nids are very tanky, and Reaper Flyrant basically one-shots anything in my army, and there's nothing I can do about that. So
interesting. Yeah, I'm very excited to get some reps. I've played in Necrons a couple of times, but they were not necessarily super competent or super experienced pilots. At least they were fine players. Yeah. So I'll be excited to get some of those reps in. All right, so we're at about 2 hours 25. I think that's about all the time we got for today, unless anyone wants to mention anything else.
Nah,
take that as a
talking a lot. Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll do our couple of pitches. Like we said earlier, please check out bestintabletop.com/store. Links in the description in order to check out any of our new merch. If you want to rep Nick or myself or Lucas or all three of us or whatnot, it's all out there. It's cool. So have to check that out. If you're interested in chatting more with us in particular, if somehow 2.5 hours of nonsense wasn't enough of our voices, head on over to patreon.com/bestintabletop. Join the Discord that way. And if you're looking for more BitRep content, which there's gonna be more of coming out of us coming up soon. Right? Mm-hmm. That's happening. Yep. Very exciting. Head on over to youtube.com/bestintabletop. Whether you're interested in becoming a member and getting that content or not, please head on over there and make sure that you're subscribed. The YouTube subscribers is the only metric that matters in GW's eyes for content creators toward becoming getting preview content and stuff. And we would love to bring y'all that kind of content in the future. So definitely head over and do that if you haven't had a chance yet. Anyway, with that all being said and done, I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
No, I'm still Lucas.
And we'll see you next time.
Adios, amigos.
Thanks for tuning in.